suspected weapon.
Yeah. Weird. Okay, here we go. So let me share my screen to set the stage here. All right, here's the known world. Here's what all you guys know, and our the opportunity you have taken is to investigate what's going on at the iron mine at Damir, which, as you can see here, is south of Munhadir. And Damir is about a day's march south. So everybody, you all know that at least before you undertake this task. Before we go there, we're going to meet our participants, and they all gather in the frontier town of Munhadir, where the campaign is centered. And I think to start this off, so we're saying that Boga Whitebeard, the bard, learned of this opportunity and decided to put together, to assemble a group to pursue this. And I'm going to ask Boga to tell us what's the kind of gathering place where you've asked everyone to meet you before you go speak to your contact.
Well, Emic and Boga had been meeting in a tavern. Excuse me, I'm not sure what part of town it was. Do you remember, Emic?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but we had met in a tavern where I, as a bard, unlike other, is it Inaquin? Ibanquin?
Ibanaquin, yeah.
Ibanaquin. Unlike most Ibanaquin bards, I am not all into Ibanaquin music. Like, it's fine, but I like to learn all other, take in all sorts of cultures' music and adapt it. He's kind of a revolutionary, maybe punk, hippie-ish, not in tune with what's popular back in his homeland. So he likes to go around to different taverns where they play music in the song pit. But we're in a tavern. We've assembled. We're listening to some music. I'm having coffee. I don't know what everybody else is drinking, but I drink a lot of coffee.
Great, and we're going to say, so I think the first person to arrive here, so you've met these people, come across these, you as you said, you know Emic already, and then you've encountered these other folks at one point or another, and kind of got them interested in this possibility. So I'm going to say, actually, Emic. So actually, tell us one or two things about Boga, Patrick. Like just one or two visuals, so we can get a picture. So we're talking Ibanaquin. So he's a jackal.
Yeah, Ibanaquin. He is kind of a shortish, not well built. Would say diminutive Ibanaquin. So probably. I having listened to the lore established in the mission 1 a bit, it sounds like they're typically, the big ones are bigger than humans.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say I'm probably among the smaller Ibanaquins. Also, I don't know, did we establish, do they have full hair all over their bodies, or are they?
That has not been established in play, but in my mind, they are basically jackals who walk on 2 legs and have opposable thumbs.
Right. Okay. All right. So even by Algonquin standards, Boga is hairy. Like, I never really knew what a hair suit was. I always thought it was like a suit made of hair. but that was his characteristic, and he's just like a hairy guy. But he has this like finely groomed white Van Dyke beard.
Oh, nice.
And he is well clothed. Like, he is a performer, and he takes pride in performing. He has beautiful robes. He doesn't wear a turban. It's more a scarfy thing with flower prints. Dagger at the belt, but well maintained. He carries a bagpipe, basically. It's a neaban, which is like a Middle Eastern style bagpipe, which Jason was able to track down, and it's a pretty basic one, but it's very large, and takes up a lot of room. I'd
Okay,
say.
great.
Yeah.
Love it. I can totally picture him. And I think Emek is probably the first one to arrive. So Samyo, what is when Emek kind of comes in the front door of this tavern? What do we see?
So Emek is kind of like a tall, kind of well-built Ibnakwan, just like Boga. That's actually how they first met, because he saw another Ibnakwan. But anyway, he's like the very image of what you think of when you think of like an Ibnakwan Sajin, which is kind of like almost like a knight order of like the Ibnakwan culture. So he's tall and he's well built, and he's got like the trademark kind of like lappets that go down past. It's kind of like a headgear.
Like
and
a pharaoh has, right?
Yes,
Is that
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the things on the sides of like the pharaoh's headgear that extend down past their shoulders, and his are decorated with like the colors of his order, which is he follows a deity named Tohamku, I think. And he has a steely gaze and chiseled as his two rolled appearance traits. So somehow, even though this was random, I got like every trait related to like the goody two shoes paladin. And his traits are cooperative, forgiving, and merciful.
Oh my gosh! Wow. And he's good, right? Like he's
and he's good.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I have a feeling he's not gonna last too long though.
Good luck, Emek. And what
I love the idea of a flexible paladin, though. It's so nice.
And what is Emek's what like he's got this armor? Is he wearing it, or does he sort of have it stowed for later? Because he's just walking around.
Oh, right. So he's come prepared. So he's in his chainmail, and he's got a shield over his back, and he's got a kapesh, which is this curved blade, which is the reskin sword.
Which is from Tanralar, right? Like that's
yes,
like your order.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're geared up in the uniform of your order.
I'd imagine it looks kind of rather imposing.
And I would imagine any Ibnakwan, or at least any Tanralari Ibnakwan, would know immediately that you're a Saigin, right? Or Saigin, how do you say that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, awesome. So is this like a duck to come in the doorway kind of thing? Are you that tall?
I would say he's like slightly, he's like about the size of a human, but probably more muscular.
Okay.
Like average for an Ibnakwan, but because he's an Ibnakwan, slightly taller and slightly denser than a human.
Okay.
But not like duck under the door tall.
Okay. So Emek comes in and sees Boga, with whom he's familiar, and so you guys can sit down at the table and chat and await the arrival of our third party member, which will be another paladin, but this one I think probably has a different appearance. Jason, we're going to cut outside to the street, and I'm curious to know, Bowden makes his way towards this watering hole, what is like one thing that Bowden does on the way there? Like instead of making a beeline for the place, what is like one thing he pauses to do on his way to the tavern? Just moving through the kind of bustling streets of Munhadir.
He would potentially look for any Ozumites he might know to ensure that they're okay and have a place to sleep for the night, or perhaps people that he's seen amongst the Ozumites.
Oh, great! So he like wakes up in Dry Basin and then immediately just sort of checks to make sure that people in the area have like shelter and are being. Does he like? Are there certain regulars that he kind of like checks in on?
Only if there's regulars that go to the Ozumite camp. That's kind of where he's been hanging.
Okay. Great. So that's part of his morning kind of ritual that he goes through. And as he goes about this, what do we see? What kind of a person are we looking at?
So Bodens, he goes by Noble Boldan White Speckled Rufus, is the full name of a Burmese person. But the white speckled rufus is the color of his feathers, and he's just got, I imagine kind of just a largish head with the unblinking eyes, because that's part of their heritage, or unblinking gaze. I rolled up that he was youthful and had large hands. I'm not sure if the hands are part of his wings, or how was that envisioned?
We have arrived at the wings are separate, and he's got a separate set of arms that he can use.
Okay.
And the wings are coming out of his back.
Yeah. So he's got large hands separate from his wings. And I was looking to see if I had, I guess I don't have a helmet, or is that something that would be bought separately, Jason?
It could be included in the armor that you have. It's like a fictional thing, that might come into play depending on the situation, but it's totally up to you.
That's what I was wondering. I think he would have a red helmet, because that's something that that his deity has, Abadana. And she's known as the Never Still, the Red Helm Sister in Blood. So I want to say that he has a red helm, and perhaps painted crudely red with whatever he could find. And additionally, he has a shield with that also is crudely painted with a red broken chain, which also represents his deity.
Wow, so that's pretty bold, because Abidana is not looked. I mean, the spears are not a super. They're not a super. They don't completely dominate the town, so you can get away with a lot in this town without them knowing. But that is still bold to kind of walk around with those items.
Yeah, my thinking was that because he mainly spends his time with the Ozumites, maybe it would be kind of maybe they let him be and just see him as someone poor, and I don't know.
Yeah. And maybe it's such a sloppy
his
paint
chaotic.
job. Maybe the paint job is so rough.
Yeah, maybe.
They don't even.
My thought was, though, that maybe because of his chaotic nature, he just wouldn't care. And
punk rock. Okay, awesome. That's so great. That's a great. And so does he wear the helmet normally, or does he carry it under his arm, or how does that, does he actually put it on and walk?
He probably wears it.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if he's going to the meeting where they're getting ready to go out. I guess I was curious about the Grail Seeker. Would that happen right now, at the beginning of the session, or would I just?
It's whenever you feel like you have one that you could declare.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could.
Because I would easily.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I would potentially say that he his Grail is to investigate and end the iron shortage or whatever, because I imagine that affects the Ozumites and the people they take care of more than even just the regular citizens of the city.
Okay, great. I think for a Grail to it needs to be a little more specific, stop the iron shortage, right? Instead of investigate, or maybe get to the bottom of it would be another option, right? So however you want to phrase that is up to you. And you can certainly have declared it already. It says, when you declare a Grail, explain how it will further your cause. Did you have a cause written down?
Yeah, so destroy the bonds of oppression. So I imagine the poor are affected more greatly by the iron shortage than someone who's not poor, because they're already poor, and it's difficult to obtain things that they need. So that was my thinking, but I could become, yeah. So I was thinking more stop the iron shortage, or.
Yeah, I think that's great. That sounds awesome. And that totally will further your cause for the reasons that you said. So go ahead and write your Grail down, or however you want to record that.
Hey,
And then
Jason,
you'll,
sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Could I butt in real quick?
Yep.
So I was also kind of wondering about the paladin cause. So I was wondering if you could tell me if this is a good one, or I'm fine changing it. So, but I just written down, doing the right thing never goes unrewarded.
Doing the right thing never goes unrewarded. How about, so that kind of implies that like reward will come to those who do the right thing, right?
Yes.
So is that part of your faith that like it's not you don't do it for nothing, that good things will come to you if you do the right thing? Is there a kind of like a reward?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
kind of, I was thinking of it as like even if no one's looking, or like even if this would put yourself in danger, like eventually something, like there's a good karma coming for doing this thing.
Okay, got it. Yep. So the cause would be what's a kind of direct thing. Like that is a great, what you've just said is a great kind of tenet of the faith, right? And for a cause, it's like what's something you can do to kind of achieve that karma. It could be like, and so that maybe calls for a little thinking about the faith itself. And like I can't remember what we established about Tahamku, but like for instance, it would be always never pass up, never forsake one in need, or something like that, right? Like the idea being like if you ever encounter somebody who needs help, you must help them.
Okay, sure, that's perfect.
It should be sort of more of an imperative kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But I love this idea, this philosophy of how that works for your character, or in terms of your faith. Like that can be something that you just kind of bring up as you do these things.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so you you can be thinking about what a grail would be for you also, and you can declare it at any time during the session. Okay, and great. So Bowden makes his way through Dry Basin on his way to the tavern. So we get some of that, and you're sort of on the street. You're turning down the street to get to this place, to the meeting place, and you see another Booma, another owl person. But this owl person is different than the ones you're used to seeing. And I'm just going to say, for the sake of this first meeting, that Boga has met this person before, but you have not. So Boga is gathering everybody together, but you and translator Alexi have not yet met. So this is your first sighting. And as a Booma, relatively rare amongst the population of this town. They always, another of your kind always catches your eye, but this one is remarkably different. Kevin, if you wouldn't mind describing translator Alexi.
Put on my translator hat. Alexi is, his wings are covered for a Booma. It's a little bit maybe unusual. He has on a cassock and a hat and a brightly colored walking stick that is wrapped with brightly colored banners that are all wrapped around. Think about like a smaller portable maypole that somebody's walking. But if you were to look at the strips of cloth, they all have writing on it, prayers, sort of written down and wrapped around it. Unlike most of our kind, Alexi doesn't really look up much. She's constantly sort of, and also has sort of a little bit of a retiring kind of way that he moves through the crowd. He's not, the sea does not part in front of him. He, like the river, goes around anything that's there. His wings are underneath the clothing that he wears, and you can see it looks almost like he's got a little bit of a hunch. If you weren't Booma, you would think maybe he's got a spinal condition. But he's sort of picking his way sort of very non-confrontationally throughout the crowd. He is kindly, more friendly than with the folks of the city than is maybe typical for the Booma, who, can fly and are probably cooler than everybody else in their mind. But that's not how Alexi sort of carries himself, and he doesn't look swimming in money.
And what does he think? What does Alexi think when he turns and sees this larger more powerful looking owl person come down the street wearing this crudely painted what style helmet are you thinking, by the way, Jason? Like, what is it, like a Spartan type helmet, or sort of more, is it more like a just on the top of the head, like a cap kind of thing, or does it actually cover part of your face?
Yeah, I was thinking something that kind of comes down the face a little bit, but not so flashy that it's got like, you know, the broom handle style on the top.
Okay, great. And it's yeah, painted red there. So what does Alexi think when he sees, think and or say?
Alexi will doesn't really make a lot of eye contact actually, and says something. I imagine the traditional Buma sort of to Buma greeting out in the not away from the city of a million feathers would be something like greetings, Sky Brother, or something like that. And you know, polite, retiring, deferential would be how Alexi would greet him.
And does Bowden have any response to that?
You know, Bowden kind of he was part of a religious. He had a religious background with the Boomies originally, but he kind of like turned his back on all the religions of those people. So he would maybe even give like a humph sort of whatever, and potentially just kind of not say much back either.
And like move past into the building, or pause.
Maybe even saying what's another Boomies doing in this group or whatever, or something like that.
Are we we're in the maybe in the tavern and
Yeah, let's say
surprised to see each other again?
Yeah, right. So you've passed inside and you see Boga and MX sitting over there.
And Boga, if you're cool with this, I'd like to establish. So Alexi does some street preaching in the city, and part of Alexi's part of my deity, my religious tradition is one of music. And so it's sort of a singing kind of prayer thing, not to trample on the toes of the bard, but that may have been how we first came into contact. You know, that you maybe heard me singing as part of the preaching, and we're maybe into it for the patterns, not so much the religious piece of it. But we struck up an acquaintance there, and Alexi's a nice guy, and often you know, happy. One does not need to buy into the religion for him to talk to you, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Does that land? Does that feel like a way our characters could have met?
Sure, in the song pit.
Yeah, in the song pit, perfectly. Yeah, no, fabulous. Greetings again, Sky Brother, and greetings to you, singer of many songs.
Please
and
sit.
Tip of the hat to MX Steelgaze.
But Patrick, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, come and sit down.
Okay, great. So we can cut to you meeting your contact. Actually, I'm going to say this is the place. Okay, so this is the Fallen Shield. We'll say, since we didn't have a name for this tavern before. So this is in Truth Market. It is called that because an ancient Adjet statue stood here at one point and it had collapsed. And so kind of at an angle wedged into the ground is a great stone shield. And just next to that is the entrance to this sandstone structure that you're all in now. And I'm going to say that actually it's more of a courtyard this time of year. You're not inside a closed space. There was an arch that a tall person would have maybe had to duck under, but not needed. So there's some, like, you know, there's a couple of potted palms, and you hear the sounds of the market. It's a pretty bustling place. And then, does anybody want to have an exchange with anybody else before we meet your contact? All good? Okay.
Yeah.
Pardon me while I find your contact here. So this person arrives when they come through the archway to the Gosh, so we have 2 Buma and 2 Ibanaquin, is that right?
Yep. I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you
I
guys
feel
see
like we
this?
have more Buma than humans in our like group of characters.
We definitely, yeah, it's like 10% of the population, but we have, I think both of our current PCs right now, this is it for the Buma population, as far as I know. So this person actually arrives late. So this person is like an hour later than your appointed meeting time. And comes through the arch looking haggard and worse for wear, like not happy, and immediately like gestures to a serving person and has like a gourd of some alcoholic beverage brought to him. And he before he does anything else, he's standing right at the doorway, and he just like sort of chugs down this gourd and like wipes his snout, and then kind of like peers around, shielding his eyes. The bright light is not, he sort of steps into the shade of the arch so the sunlight's not directly on him, and looks around. And you notice, the first thing you notice about him is these tattoos that he has in his, these patterns, these Tanralari tattoos marking him as a member of a certain clan. And the tattoos are still visible. The hair grows up around them, but the skin that was tattooed does not grow hair anymore. So there are these markings all over his body. And he looks around and he sees Boga, and comes over to you and looks at Emek. Is Emek sitting down or is Emek standing?
I think he's sitting with Boga because they're kind of friends.
So he comes over. I'm assuming in my mind the 2 owl folk are standing because they just recently arrived. Well, actually, no, it's been an hour. What am I talking about? You guys have been there for a while, so everybody's got a seat. There's no seat for him, and he comes over and he sort of looks around at all of you. Doesn't say hi or anything, and then looks at Emek specifically, and then says, "Make room, whelp." Asking you to like get out of your chair so that he can sit there.
Emek is more taken back than anything, so he slowly rises from his chair and then slowly pushes it over to him as it scrapes along the ground loudly.
Alexi jumps in and says, "Oh, please! I've been sitting for so long. It would be good to stretch these legs. Please take my chair."
No,
take my
I
chair."
insist. I insist. Please.
Have we seen that? Has he indicated that he knows one of us?
He zeroed in on Boga. And I'm going to say that Boga has actually had an interaction with this guy before, right? An initial interaction saying, "I'll put together a team," etc. So it wasn't like lengthy, but Boga knows who this person is.
But likely, but Bodine hasn't seen anybody say that they know one another, right?
That's right.
So Bodine would probably say, "Hold on, who's this guy? Does anybody know this guy?"
I'll say this is Kaleem. He's our potential employer for this adventure.
And who are you?
Employer.
He says to Bowden.
Oh, he says I'm Wrath incarnate, my friend.
Nice.
And you're lucky to have me on this team, but you might not. It might be better if you don't push everybody around before sending us off on your task.
Wrath incarnate. That sounds like my night last night. And he kind of like goes, he goes in this way that Ibanaquins do.
I go ahead and laugh and tell everybody to sit down and kick over a stool for Kaleem, my stool.
Oh, so there's a little camaraderie response there? Is that
Sure, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that totally like, yeah, like there's an instant ease there because he was definitely, he was wondering if you were going to push him at all on that. All right, great. Yeah, so he gestures again, and another gourd is brought over, and he is kind of like hunched. You can tell that he's not even happy like having to sit up straight. He like hunches over the table, and dips his snout into the gourd, and then wipes it again, and then kind of peers around at everyone. So this is what you have for me.
Look around you. Have you never seen such a distinguished group of adventurers? Strong men, ready for action?
Who's this one? And he gestures at Alexei. Doesn't look very strong.
Not all strength for problem solving is necessarily in the arm. I am translator Alexei Temnosiwa. I am a speaker of languages and a solver of problems, and I am a bringer of all people together when it can be done.
He's the brains of the operation.
Translator. Where we're going, we don't need any translation unless you can talk to the mountain itself.
Let us see what opportunity arises. I am comfortable, unlike many of my people, in the darker places of the earth.
We'll see about that. I couldn't take it myself after a while. And then, like, there's a shadow passes across his face. There's like a brief like shift in his expression. All right, so we have you two, when he gestures at Emek and Bowden. As long as you have these two, yeah, you might be of use. All right. So the first thing we need to do is get to Damir. I'm taking you. And there we'll talk to the chief of the outpost about this specific problem that we have. I'm not supposed to talk about it until we get there. But you all know that Damir's not been able to produce the amount of ore that it normally has, and that's why everybody's seeing the price of their knives go up.
Sorry, you cut out for a couple seconds. Could you say that last sentence again?
Oh, sorry. He just says like, you all know that the price of metal has risen, and that's kind of what the issue is, but I can't talk to you about the details until we get to Damir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Are you all ready for the road?
Aye, aye, Captain. Sarcastically.
We all came prepared to like leave from here, correct?
I'm going to assume that you're all packed up. Yeah. I mean, that whatever like paltry rations you have is in like a pack or whatever, and you're ready to move out from here. So he's ready to go. He doesn't even have, it's like a day's march. He doesn't even have, all he does is he takes he orders one more gourd before you guys leave, and that's his path, his trail rations for the trip there. And does anybody have any business they want to attend to before you hit the road?
Oh, just is anybody going to finish that gourd? Because gosh, I'm a little dry. It's a warm day.
Which gourd is that? Just a random.
Oh, any if there's any
Have a gourd of coffee.
Alexei is definitely enjoys food. Is a little bit heavy set, though. If you pressed him on it, he would say it's really the feathers. They give that contour. They make one seem fuller than one actually is. And if anything's left on a plate or in a glass, are you done with that? Is that
okay? Great. Then there's definitely, there's some Alexei. Maybe Alexei's the last one out as he like drains the. Or how do you with the beak and everything?
Indeed. No, just one last little fried whatever those are. They're really delicious. I haven't had those before. Wonderful.
They just kind of hold it over their beak and it just drains in.
Is that how you guys do it? You just
Yeah, maybe.
How do owls like drink things?
I think they dip. They
Yeah,
just
I mean,
dip
I
their
imagine
beak.
it's like any other bird, right?
With their beaks. Yeah.
All right, so you're going to set out.
Oh God, we're like that horrible drinking bird thing, sort of
Right,
bobbing up
like
and down
Alice says.
constantly.
Yeah. So we're going to make one set out roll to see how that goes on the way to Damir. So that is a the sort of basic overland travel roll for freebooters, and that's not, it's not a specific character that's making that roll, it's for the whole party. So I'm going to ask Patrick to make this roll. So it'll be 2d6, and because you're moving through safe territory, you're going to add 3 to that. So it's 2d6 plus 3.
Work. I'm just gonna roll some regular dice over here.
Right, that's the spirit.
Go. Oh, 11 plus 3.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
It rains gold.
Please.
Yeah, I said no rocks fall and everybody dies, but showers
Yeah.
of gold are commonplace.
14.
Little gold flakes instead of snowflakes.
I'm going to say that means that the weather is glorious, right? Like it's a beautiful spring day. There was recently a downpour. So there's and that's mostly dried up, but when you guys set out through Fortune's Gate, this time of year in this area, there's a fair amount of greenery. The olive trees are in bloom. So there's like white blossoms on all of the olive trees. Everything smells really great, especially after this fresh rain. It's like the perfect day to set out on who knows what adventure. So on a 10 or higher, the party completes the leg in good time. And for each day of travel, each member consumes 1 ration, and you would heal points also. So we're just gonna this trip to Damir is actually it's a road. It's through safe territory, and you're going to be able to complete. You'll get there before sunset, so you'll be able to have an evening repast in the village itself. And in fact, you don't have to mark rations because you'll be fed when you get there. That is the one act of what's the word I'm looking for? Hospitality that the mining corps is willing to offer you. And so Kalim reminds you of that as you go. But on the way there, as you move down from Fortress Ridge and through, there's this very lush river valley that you can see there, which is all farmland. So a lot of the food that supplies Munhadir and Damir comes from this river valley that you guys are passing through. So there's scattered little homesteads and tiny little hamlets kind of up and down this river valley. And it's a beautiful day, and you're all marching along on foot. And would anybody like to have a conversation with anybody else along the way? Absolutely not required, but in case anybody had like a topic of conversation or something they wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask politely and delicately. I want to ask translator Alexei, like, why, unlike Bodon, why Alexei's wings are not visible.
Great. So I'm
Probably
going to say,
word it
I'm going to jump right into this. Is a keep company role. It says, when you spend more than a little time getting to know someone, ask them a question or tell a story. And Emic is asking a question. So Kevin, you get to answer this however you want, but Emic's role is going to dictate like the spin on the outcome, whether this conversation goes well or poorly. And you can interpret that.
We have the roll first, and then I'll play to whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So Emic, Samuel, you're going to roll 2d6, and you don't have any bonds yet with Alexei, so it's just 2d6 straight up.
Oh boy. I got a 7.
Oh yeah, and it's worth pointing out if you don't actually remember this, if you're ever on the cusp, which is to say if you ever roll a 6 or a 9, you can burn a point of luck to knock that up to the next tier. So keep that in mind if you're ever right there. I don't always remember to remind people about that. So a 7, play it out or summarize the conversation and choose one from the list below, that being one of you will get a bond with the other, and that's up to the two of you to decide. So,
Well, thank you, friend, for asking. It's a common observation, and yet I can understand the curiosity one might have. Not all of us travel in the same way, and it's become completely clear to me that our people are often too concerned with what happens above in the sky and not as concerned with the earth that nourishes us all. And so it's a gesture on my part to be part of the earth and not necessarily of the sky, to be closer to those who walk and live here in these lands. And so it is a gesture of penitence, of humility, of solidarity with those such as yourself who are, not necessarily earthbound, but tied more closely to the earth. And I hope to understand you better by joining you in this way.
Emek is thoroughly impressed, and he says as much. He goes, "Wow, I truly admire your devotion to your ideals and the lengths that you go for your faith. And I really appreciate, like, I can see where you're coming from."
I think my heart just stopped. I ran into an open-minded paladin. It's so lovely.
So maybe I will gain one bond with Alexei.
I think that because you are the kind of noble, good paladin, that makes total sense. That
sounds lovely.
Ready to help Alexei if Alexei ever needs help.
All right.
That's awesome.
So how does the bonds work? Sorry, that's like the one part of the rules that I couldn't really draw.
It is a little fiddly. So you write down Alexei's name in your bonds area, and you draw a circle. The way that we usually do is you draw a circle in ink. And you can have that represents the bond, and you can have up to 3 of those circles. And then when you, whenever you help somebody, you can just give them a +1 without having bond with them, as long as you can rationalize how you're helping, right? Yeah. So you can, if it makes sense and you can help, you can give somebody a +1. And then what the bond does is you can give an additional +1 by marking a bond.
Jason,
Gotcha.
Do bonds go both ways, or would I need to keep company then with Emek at some point in order to establish a reciprocal bond?
Exactly right.
Gotcha.
If you roll a 10 or higher, you'd both get it.
Oh, I got you.
Right. So on a 7 to 9, yeah, you can. So there's 3 things to choose on the list of choices: gain a bond with the person you started the conversation with, or they gain a bond with you. Those are 2 choices. And the third choice is refresh all marked bonds with that person. So after you mark a bond, the only way to refresh it is to actually keep company with that person.
Is there time in the journey for a reciprocal conversation to be had with Emek?
Sure, you want to go for it? Absolutely.
Alexei, what a delightful, kind attitude. I've not found the people in these lands to be as receptive to this sometimes. And how did you come to this open and lovely view of the world? It's sincere admiration on the part of Alexei.
Awesome. Do you want to roll? Then we'll...
Oh yeah, sorry. Whoops.
Yeah, go for it.
Right, survey said, oh, okay. Any pluses to this roll, Jason?
Nope.
Okay, it's a 6.
So you get XP, so you actually get to mark XP, Alexei.
But you could do the luck.
Oh yes, right? Yes, you could burn luck if you really wanted to. What's your luck right now?
Emek, I love you. My luck is 8. I'm gonna keep my powder dry.
Okay, so you get XP, and the other person describes how the interaction goes poorly.
You asked it so nicely.
I know.
Sorry, I was hoping for,
it could be like maybe a bird poops on you or something. It could totally be. It's totally up to you, like why this doesn't necessarily go so well.
I'll say this. So Emek is happy to respond, and he starts talking about his upbringing as a foundling of the Order of Tohomku, but as he talks about, this is kind of like his first time away from the Order, so maybe he feels a little homesick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and maybe it touches like a tough part of something he really wasn't planning to get into on such a beautiful day. And so
Yeah.
in my mind, I see him as getting sort of, polite, but sort of pensive and sad. And maybe Alexei regrets asking this because he realizes he touched on something like, so how are your parents?
Yeah, right. Classic.
That kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Emick,
perfect.
if that lands for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great. And then the last bit of that is Alexei must make amends on Emick's terms, which doesn't have to be like literally that, right? But basically Emick has to specify something that Alexei needs to do in the future in order to enable to keep company again. And you can totally think about that if you don't have anything right now.
Yeah, let me think about that.
Okay. All right, great. Then you guys are going to arrive at Damir at the end of that. I think Boga, there you see Kaleem kind of like rolling his eyes at this very polite and ridiculous conversation between the paladin, the one paladin, and
Yeah, you
the
can't
elf
just say the
person there.
paladin
No,
anymore.
I can't anymore. We got two paladins in this freaking party. Okay. And this is what the foothills of the Ageless Mountains look like in springtime. So this is the kind of landscape you guys are moving through. Grass, tilled land, fair amount of greenery. And then after probably 6 or 7 hours of marching, and not like hard marching, pretty leisurely on this glorious day, you start to work your way up into the foothills, and there's a moment where you kind of crest a ridge on the road, and you see a great view of the Ageless Mountains. I don't know. I think the Buma. So the significance of the Ageless Mountains to the Buma is on the far side of these is Ukrit, which is the city-state where all Buma originate, right? I mean, unless you can be born elsewhere, but like that is where the Buma people live. So the Ageless Mountains have this aspect to them, and some very daring Boomies merchants will actually make the trip across these mountains. They'll fly across trying to bring lightweight goods to Munhadir for trade. So I don't know how either one of you guys feels about that. I know that Alexei is land bound. So does this have any significance to Alexei or Bowden?
It's sad, and it reminds Alexei of where he will not ever be again.
Wow.
Bodon doesn't think much of it.
Okay, great.
Jason, when you were describing the landscape, it felt like we were going to have an observation of something, or maybe I was reading too much into it. I'm just trying to be a good map keeper.
The only thing you see along the way is something besides what I've described as Kaleem. After you top this ridge and you see this landscape, Kaleem points out how on a number of the hillsides, very visibly, partly overgrown now, but you see some areas that are terraced, that are kind of dug out in kind of orderly rows, almost like a rock quarry. And Kaleem tells Boga and Bowden, who I'm assuming are both kind of more up near him than back near Alexei and Emick, that those are the former sites of iron mines in the area. That these hills all in here have been stripped of their iron, and however long ago that activity took place, Damir has become the kind of main place where iron is mined because of new kind of mining techniques and being able to go deeper. So Khalil takes a moment just kind of like, that's what we used to do. Like, that's the way it used to be, all out in the open. Those were the days, no more, none of these dark, cramped underground tunnels. Clearly unhappy about the turn that iron mining has taken. And to hear him tell the reason is that there's not a whole lot of exposed material that's accessible, right? So they've had to go deeper. And that's why Damir was founded in the first place. And this is the village you come to at the end of that period. So the sun is low in the west, which would be off to your right as you're heading south. And this is the place you come upon, mostly sandstone and kind of adobe construction. the first thing, so this is a view from a hill as you're kind of approaching, and you know, it's very clear that the large structure outside of the village is the caravansary, where a lot of the exchange of goods happens when shipments are going out. There is one at the upper right there, in the upper right corner. You can see these three shapes here. Khalil tells you that those are the smelters, and that only one of them is running because that's how much production has fallen off. And then so there's, from the way it looks, you can tell that it's usually a very active place, and he says as much, you know, like it's too quiet around here. I hate coming here. And he like looks in his gourd for another drink, and there's nothing left. And he kind of throws it over his shoulder. And he leads you through the gate. And anytime anyone wants to say anything, if you want to add a little bit, you can just interrupt. I'm just sort of moving you on to the next stage, but people feel free to chime in there. Patrick, did you have something you want to
Yeah,
say?
I was just gonna talk to Kaleem and ask him about, like, this isn't Damir that I heard of in some tales. This feels like a feels like a backwater now. Not what I remember in stories.
I know that song you're thinking of.
And then I start playing it a little bit on the
yeah, that's the one. Oh, but don't take me there. Those days are gone. Maybe they'll come back.
I feel so bad for Kaleem. This man is like depressed.
Yeah, that's the place. That's the way it used to be. And it used to be just like that in the songs, except, you know, that part where they talk about, there's that line going about into the deep dark, the darkest, the rat holes, you know that line, but they don't call it rat holes. I can't remember what kind of flowery language they use to describe that, but whoever wrote that really overdid it on that. I start to think after a while that they wrote that song to get more people to come here.
There's that part of the song though about the caves, the deeper caves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's part of why you're here, actually. Here, let's go meet the boss.
All right. I'm still here. I'm just having camera problems.
Okay. So he leads you up towards the...
Did anyone bring a light source? I think we're all in the dark with Boga.
I have torches. I can always use torches if it's dark. You were saying the sun was still just setting?
That's right. Yeah. It's plenty light here as you move into town. And by the time you get up to the mining core offices, yeah, the sun will sort of just be starting to set. So he leads you up to the through town, like some miners like call out to him as you move through the settlement, and you know, he gestures at them, and he leads you up to the highest point in Damir, and there is a sorry, I'm confused by the chat window. Too many things. And there's some attendants up at the mining core offices who he kind of gestures to, and they open the door, and you guys are led in to a large room with a wooden, kind of rough-hewn wooden table with a embroidered tablecloth on it, and there's like a big pitcher of water, and there's some bowls of fruit and some bread. And this guy, sorry, I've yet to find one platform that can do what I need it to do without seamlessly. That's what I want. Okay, so here we go. There's Kaleem, and you come into this room, and there's this guy. Another Ibn Akhwan. And Kaleem has mentioned this fellow before. This is Baki Katrock, and he is the main authority in Damir. And he gets up and sort of makes a show of greeting his foreperson. So the other thing you've learned about Kaleem is that he's in charge of, he's the supervisor of all the miners. And since operations were not aren't what they used to be, it was easy enough for him to kind of leave town, come back, and things are still kind of moving along at their slower rate here. So Baki greets him, and they have a little aside, which you guys can't really hear. And then he turns, and he seems, his face kind of falls when he sees when he sees the crew come in. And then he has a little moment with Kaleem to one side, and then yes, come in, have a seat, refresh yourselves. It's a short march, but I'm sure you're thirsty. And he gives you a moment to kind of refresh yourselves, and then Kaleem says, well, you know why they're here. It's time to tell them what the problem is. And you're all there's tables for you all at the table there. And Baki is just about to get started talking, and one of the attendants kind of comes in and says, "Sir, I'm afraid." And then Baki like shakes his head and goes, "No, no. How did he find out?" And the attendant just kind of like shakes their head too. And then a third person is escorted into the room, and it's this person. "Hello, my friends. Hello. I am Azam, priest of Aban al-Nar here in Damir. I understand you have come to help us with our problem." And Baki is kind of like rolling his eyes and looking away, and clearly feels like he's in charge, but like this is like the priest, and he can't really be rude. It feels like an imposition, is what you're gathering. So there's these three people in the room with you. And Azam is an Alfiran who looks very different than most Alfirans because it appears to have lost all of his hair. And it looks like from an early, you're guessing that he was in some kind of burning accident long ago, and no longer has any hair. So maybe a little upsetting or disturbing at first, if you're used to interacting with Alfarans. And Baki says, perhaps, dear friend priest, you would care to explain the problem. Deferring, and Azam says, no. It is your operation. Please continue. Pretend I'm not here. And if anyone wants to say anything, just let me know. Interrupt at any time.
MX just thinking, please don't be a purple worm. Please don't be a purple worm.
So Baki explains the situation. It's all started when our crew on the lowest level broke through into a natural cave. And Kaleem like reaches over to the pitcher and like looks in it and sets it down, and then he's kind of like looking. Kaleem is like very like looking away, like looking into the distance, not really present for this. We sent down an exploratory team of 4 miners. They descended by a rope into the darkness of the caves below. And Azam says, the augurs were poor. As I told you, the augurs were poor. And Baki, there's like a long, like painful silence as Baki kind of like holds in his apparent rage at this commentary. 4 miners went down. Those above waiting at the opening heard screams and then nothing. Their lamplight was extinguished and once again darkness. As you can imagine, this caused quite a lot of upset amongst our people, most of whom immediately fled the mines. And it was only after several days that we were able to calm them in order to send down another second group. This group numbered 6. And Kaleem gets up and leaves the room. Like you can tell he was starting to fidget, and now he just gets up and walks out. And Baki kind of looks after him. I'm afraid our 4-person feels responsible for what has happened. However, whatever he is feeling, you must do your best to ignore as we try to address this problem. This group of 6 followed after the 4, and they too did not return. That is, 5 did not return. There was 1 who escaped from whatever lay in the darkness. One who called them black demons. This person, and Azam says a little prayer under his breath.
Emek kind of straightens up as soon as he hears demons.
This person was disturbed by what he encountered, and it was very difficult to get much information out of him. And Azam says, perhaps if you had not put him in jail. Yes. We did not want his stories to reach the other miners. As you can imagine, that would be terrible for morale. So there was a time when Uwais was held in confinement, but it was not long because after 2 days, he escaped. And we have not seen him since. What we need now is for a brave and capable group, such as yourself, to follow in the footsteps, or excuse me, not precisely in the footsteps, as we have learned those footsteps lead to disaster. We need you to determine what has happened to our missing miners and restore some confidence to our operation. Since then, only the bravest. We've lost 2/3 of our workforce. They've gone. And those remaining are only scraping what they can out of the first level of our mines. The ore there has been mostly depleted. As you can see, only one of our smelters is running. There's tin and silver, but iron is our primary. Iron is the moneymaker. There's more of it down there. Once they opened that cave below, the smell was overwhelming. They could smell it. They could smell the ore. There is more iron in the heart of this mountain. And we must get it. But to do so, first, we must allay any dangers that lie there.
I'm terribly sorry to hear about the predicament of those miners and this demonic infestation haunting your deeper levels of the mines. I've read about such things. It's not good.
I ask Azam, are there stories of these demons? Have you heard of them before? Are there tales about that make any sense of this?
The tales are many of, as I'm sure you know, of the Pemir and the Dragbach. Amongst our pantheon and those of others, there are many creatures who bring blessings and curses. My god, Abenalnar, Eater of Earth, blesses this place and keeps the miners safe. And when I asked him before this, he's struggling to find a word, and then a word that is not insulting. Before this choice was made to send down an exploratory group, I asked Abenalnar if it was safe, and the augurs were poor. Yes, in the stories there are many different kinds of demons, demons of the earth, demons of the darkness. I know not what Uwais was speaking of. And now he is gone.
Assam, why do you think another group would be able to explore and survive? Are the augurs different for us?
I have not tested them lately. We ask for outside help because the skills of those who work here are limited, and they are quite, perhaps rightfully superstitious about these things. You see, they make their living entirely under the earth. They scrape out what they can find amongst the rocks and bring it up. They scrape out what our God offers them. I assume none of you are followers of Abenalnar, and so you would have fewer misgivings about going into these dark places. Indeed, to judge by the dress of two of you, these dark places may be desirable goals for you to prove your mettle.
Absolutely. The light of Tohomku will shine upon us. Do not fear, Boga.
Can Alexei pop out to get his dish refilled? Because, he must have gotten less than everybody else, long trip. My hope is, and we don't have to do details on this, to buttonhole Kaleem to both express sympathy, condolences, so sorry, so sad, but also to ask, since he seems to be the most likely guy to know any of the personal qualities of Oais, reliable guy, flaky guy, religious guy, anything that might have that led us to connect the dots on why he was the guy who lived rather than some of the other folks.
Okay, so you're gonna go buttonhole Kaleem out there. Yeah, you go. You duck out and you catch a glimpse of him. There's an open doorway that there's like a little terrace, and he's out there kind of looking down on the village, and you appear, and yeah, I think you're gonna have to negotiate to get that info. He's pretty closed up at this point.
Gotcha. Do I need a pull over him to negotiate?
I think that you would if like he was otherwise completely shut off, but he's actually open. He'll talk if you can convince him to talk.
Sure. So am I using charisma perhaps?
It's up to you. You can use intelligence would be appealing to a sense of reason, and charisma would be to charm or deceive him. So I guess it'd be charming, right?
Charming, yeah.
Nope, disarm him.
That makes sense. All right. Survey says, oh, wow. I am one charming dude. Al. A 10 plus 1, 11.
Okay. Yeah, so charming, soft-spoken owl person.
Empathic too,
Empathic, yeah. 'Cause, 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 Uwais, no, that has nothing. Well, the only thing that set him apart from everyone else is he's one of those rare types that has he just knows his way underground. You know, pitch black, maze of tunnels. Uwais could find his way out. I always figured that's why he survived. Because once that lamp went out, it was nothing down there. And in unknown territory, that's a nightmare. But Uwais, he's got an uncanny sense of up and out. He can uh, feel a faint breeze and follow it to an open hole. Who knows where he is now, though? I told Baki he shouldn't have thrown him in the pit.
Thank you kindly. So sorry for your loss, and hopefully with a full tray and maybe some extras to just push in Emek's direction by way of recompense back to the table. Thank you all.
Okay, great.
Oops.
All right. Does anybody want any more information before you, or do you want to discuss what your next course of action would be?
I do think there's something interesting that we have 3 holy men here that we've assembled, 2 paladins and a cleric to deal with demons. And it just feels like we assembled the right crew.
Yeah.
And they should be pretty happy with who we brought, especially Azam.
Azam is happy.
Paladins and a cleric walk into a mine.
Yeah.
Stop me if you've heard this one.
Yeah, Azam is pleased. Baki, it just appears to be just generally everything's it's like, how did I ever end up here? That's Baki's whole thing. Like feeling sorry for himself, and not trusting that you guys are going to do any. He's not. Yeah. Doesn't have any hope, but Azam is definitely. You're absolutely right. He is hopeful because of that fact.
I will, when an appropriate moment occurs without the bosses all next to us, kind of share what I learned from Kaleem with everybody else in the group.
Great.
I ask if there's any way we can find out, where he might have gone to. Specifically, I'm asking Kevin's character, and did they mention, where he might have fled to or what direction or anything like that?
They did not. He has vanished to parts unknown. Kaleem was convinced that locking him up was a bad idea, and one can imagine what happened there. But he's was a good miner, somebody who really knew his way in the dark. And, when the lights went out, he was the guy who was able to escape. When we move to the requisition part of the interaction, I certainly would love to ask for a lantern and some backup torches.
Yeah.
Hate to have to smell my way back to Gloucester.
I have a set of torches, but nothing more than that.
They're going to lend you some supplies, so you'll have illumination and whatnot. So I think we're going to take a little break here before we get into the delving part, or if that's even what's going to happen next. It sounds like Bowden might have some other ideas. But before we do that, before we kind of cut to that next moment, so that was a question that Bowden had about Uwais, and they don't know where he went off to. Kaleem tells you that nobody at least as far as people say, nobody in the outpost has seen him since he split. And he shows you there's like a small room where like a holding cell, and it has a single window that's quite narrow, and it had just wooden bars in it. They were like strong wooden bars, and those had been removed, and he escaped that way. So, and that's basically on the side of the mountain away from the outpost. So they know he went off into the wild.
Okay.
Does he have any family? Do we know that?
Sorry, Bowden, and then Patrick.
Oh yeah, I was just saying there's something further I want to do in or around the jail.
Yep.
Once we get back, just FYI.
Okay, cool. And Patrick?
Well, I was wondering if we've got a little bit of time, I wouldn't mind heading over to whatever local tavern music gig playing area,
Yeah.
and see if we can get any information about Uais, and maybe he has family, maybe he's hiding out in some place that we could track him down, and maybe there's other stories we could learn by being friendly with the locals.
Awesome. So a little investigation and a little information
Yeah.
gathering. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
And
So,
if we are in the looking at the cell, would love to see if we could determine how those bars got out of the window, because one of my thoughts is he may have indeed escaped, but he may have also been vanished one way or the other.
Hmm.
And it'd be interesting to know,
Interesting thought.
scattered pieces of wood, little
yep.
scrapings, and I think Bowden and Alexei both might have some decent eyesight for this sort of thing. Though I'm sure Boga and Emick may also. But I'd be curious about obviously the story is he escaped. Questions would be: was he made to vanish, or did something find its work undone underground and come up to?
Okay, great. Got it. Perfect. So let's take a 10-minute break, and just to check in about time. So we did a fair amount of setup, introducing everybody, getting all up to speed. And what we want to do is so in an hour and 15 minutes is when the mission is going to wrap up, and you guys are going to go back to Munhadir. It doesn't have to be totally resolved, but like we are going to try to move relatively quickly through that process. And I think we're in a perfect position right now because it's all right there. You're going to do some investigation steps, and then we're going to figure out what happens next. Okay, so that's just to make everybody aware that that's the time frame we're looking at. And we can go past, but so basically an hour and 15 minutes, a little past that, we should be prepared to tie up loose ends, and then we'll have some time to do the wrap up at the end of the session there. Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Okay. 10 minutes.
see how long my camera lasts.
That fancy camera. It's
The
fanning
fancy
on you.
camera. The drawback is if you've had it on all day,
Oh yeah.
it's plugged in, but I guess the battery doesn't hold as long.
We had a hybrid classroom like a lot of people, and we had our office manager managed to get 2 GoPros set up to like handle remote, and those GoPros you cannot leave them on all day.
Right. Yeah.
They fail.
I have to say that the illustration of Azam is amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, all the maps and stuff are so fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, I get a little it hits that there's like a certain itch that this
Yeah.
kind of game really gets me helps me scratch. So and it's good to keep in practice with my art. Okay, yeah, so investigating the holding cell, which you guys discover there, and it sounds like this is Bowden and Alexei, maybe, or maybe the whole crew's there. I don't know, but it's at least you 2 guys.
So while Bodon and Alexei are investigating that way, Emek would like to investigate a different way. So if there's a place to pray in Damir, he'd like to go there. If not, he's just fine with the room or something.
Yeah, what would be an ideal praying place for Emek given Tahumku and all that? What do you think would be a nice place? It's now past sunset.
Yeah, Tahumku is all about light and rebirth and health. So I guess ideally, like ideal, it would be a temple dedicated to Tahumku, but usually that's not possible. So some indoor location with a shrine or a figure of Tahumku, and if that's not there, like he'd put out his painted shield and then pray to it.
Great. And we did so none of those first things are there, so it would definitely be the shield thing. Would it be, we can cut to the next morning, would it be a sunrise thing since light is important? Or
Yes.
it could be, would that work? Okay.
Yeah, let's do sunrise.
So maybe you guys all spend the night. It's dark anyway, so it'd be hard to check around outside. Yeah.
Maybe Bodon and Alexei are investigating while Emek waits for sunrise.
Okay.
And I was going to head over to wherever the either the
tavern.
square or
Yeah.
the tavern to just chat up the locals, play a little music.
Yeah, and that's a good evening activity, right?
Yep.
Like, so before nightfall, or as night is falling and people are gathering there, then let's do that. Let's do Boga first, and then we'll cut back to the investigation of the holding cell. So this area here is where everybody gathers. There's like a kind of amphitheater cut into the wall there. This is where the village well is. Azam's house is this one right here. So Azam often performs kind of rites in this area. And if there's any announcements or whatnot, that all happens there. There's no actual kind of formal tavern. It's all outdoors. So everybody's gathering there. There's drinks. There's the whole thing. You know, it's a kind of, it's pretty quiet, although, and obviously you guys are newcomers. So there's, you know, and they're not used to a lot of newcomers, and especially unusual looking ones like you. So when Boga shows up, and is Boga alone or is anybody accompanying the bard?
Emek can tag along.
Okay.
That's the muscle, I guess. Well, Boga does the talking.
Okay, so the 2 Binoquins show up there, and yeah, so that's the scene. People get a little hushed. You know, there's clearly some like, you know, pointing and whispering when you arrive.
And I'll set up and play a song that's meant to. It's a song about bad times, but the rebirth after the bad times, and surviving through the hardships. There's 100 songs like this, 1,000 songs like this, but one that touches maybe it's not exactly about a mining town, but it's a farming town that had devastating plague. But then the farmers persevered and they prospered in the next season.
Right, so a hopeful song for those.
Hopeful song.
Yeah, hopeful song of survival. And do you have a particular goal with it, or are you just kind of
I'm trying to get in good graces with a little bit of the community so that afterwards I can strike up a conversation with somebody who looks likely that they would know what's going on and maybe knows. Maybe somebody can point me to somebody who might know Uais. Uais? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard name to pronounce. Yeah.
Uais.
Great. I don't think there's a role there. I think that like I mean, I guess if your performance went really badly, it wouldn't be so great. I'm trying to but I feel like, yeah, okay, let's do that then. Let's
Okay.
if you negotiate is and you want something from someone they don't want to give up, but I'm not thinking people here would they're not necessarily afraid to talk about. So let's just make a saving throw just to see how good this performance is.
Okay.
We'll call it facing a challenge, which is to bring the challenge here is bringing hope to the hearts of these poor beset miners. And it sounds like charisma probably.
All right. So I roll a 6 and I get a +1, 7.
Okay.
Could I help Boga, or maybe not help like mechanically, but I would also like MX doing the classic like paladin, like going around and like, oh, we're here, don't worry, we're gonna get rid of him. That he swears it's his crusade. It's
Okay.
trying
So
to
working the
alleviate-
crowd. Yeah.
Yeah.
And reassuring everyone that everything's going to be okay now. So that's
Like-
while the song is going on.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
I can.
Yeah, so there is a catch, and I think the catch there is, yeah, so mechanically it wouldn't help anyway because of the 7, and then we would have to the bonus for helping is before the roll's made, and you know these things happen pretty fast and loose, so we can make adjustments as needed. But that's a great bit of color there, and I think what happens is it's lovely, like this, you know, the sun's just gone down, the sky's still a little light out there in the west. It's a warm evening. This kind of, there's a little bit of trepidation and kind of reserve on the part of the people there, but then the song starts, and then like, you know, people kind of seem to relax a little bit. There's a little chatter, maybe somebody laughs, and then there's like quietness during the parts of the song, you know, the part where the song gets really moving and everybody gets quiet. And meanwhile, Emek is going around kind of like reassuring people and sort of chatting them up. I think the trade-off here is, so yeah, you soften them up enough where you can have a conversation with them and learn from them easily. I think they're a little put off by Emek. I think
Doing the hard sell.
there's a little like and I think that for them, Emek, what you pick up. Well, actually, what's Emek's wisdom?
My wisdom is I have a 5, or no, I have a 6.
Yeah, so Emek doesn't
Perfect.
Emek has no idea why they're not so forthcoming or but these are people who they don't know your God. They're mostly faithful to the God, you know, the God that Azam is the priest of. So I think they just find Emek a little off-putting, right? He's in his fancy paladin garb, going around telling them everything's gonna be okay. So like part of the audience is kind of put off by that, but then countering that is Boga's performance. So when Boga finishes, Patrick, you're welcome to ask members of the audience whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm going to ask around to see if anybody knows OAEs and if they can point me to somebody who might have information.
Yeah, everybody knew him. He'd been a miner there for he was one of the more veteran miners of this particular generation.
Yeah, I'm specifically looking for, does anybody know if he fled, where he may have fled, or if he may be in town. We'd love to get his help on solving the town's problems.
Okay. The only thing you learned that could be a potential use, nobody knows where he went.
Okay.
Nobody knows where he might have gone, but there's somebody who's not there, someone named Shahida, who was in some kind of relationship with Uwais. She's not present. She's, as far as people know, she's in her quarters in the dormitory. There's like a big main dormitory there in the middle of the town that where everybody sleeps. So that's the only lead you really get, is that there's a person that Uwais may have been involved with. Cut to the holding cell. The investigation of the holding cell. Bowden, was there anything in particular you were going to be looking for?
So I was looking more to see if the jailers knew, like, if they caught an eye of him like leaving and like which direction he might have gone. But I also wanted to do I wanted to do a grail thing, or grid myself.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of what would be a holy price for Abaddona, and your description mentioned that she was imprisoned and fought her jailers. So I wonder if I could maybe spend time praying in the jail or even in the cell.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with a grail of banishing the demons from the mine.
Perfect. Yep. So that's your grail. And when you gird yourself to pursue a grail with ritual preparations at a site sacred to your faith, and then you get to roll charisma. See how that goes. So you're, is there anything like that comes to mind as far as like what that ritual looks like? There's no actual, the only jail here is this one room. It's just this one cell, basically. It's got a door, and it's got this little window. So the bars have been broken off, and you're there. I guess if you want to be alone, no problem. You're there alone in this holding cell.
I don't think it matters if I'm alone. In fact, I could see Alexei even just like kind of checking out the bars and clues like he was mentioning. And this is just what Bodon's doing, and likely without saying much to Alexei. And I think he would put his helm down, and then just above his shield, just kind of placed in front of him, and just kind of say a prayer to Abaddona to give him the strength and the wrath to do what needs to be done.
The wrath, the strength and the wrath. Awesome.
Yeah, because that's one. Yeah,
that's right. Fantastic. And like you've already mentioned, the shield has that broken chain on it, right? Like painted on there. So here you put down that symbol of Abaddona and say a prayer to. Excellent. Roll plus charisma.
Okay, the roll is a 10. My charisma's has no modifier.
Okay, so you get to choose 3 marks of faith for the duration of this grail.
Okay, cool. Driven
Nice.
looked helpful.
Yeah, so you can.
I'll take a look at
think about those and then mark off 3 of those that that apply.
Okay.
All marks of faith apply for the duration of your quest. So as long as you pursue the purging of these demons, these things apply. Fantastic. And then Alexei, your investigation, there's like, okay, the bars are missing. You're going around the cell. You can't really find anything unusual.
Alexei will be kind of, wrapped up in looking at things. And when he notices that Bowden is got a thing going on, Alexei's just like, oh, so sorry. Just gonna here and kind of delicately close the door and like, you go do that and spend the rest of his time chatting up the guards. Anything unusual? Did people usually break these bars? Not much of a jail, maybe. You guys in this situation, like, do people get out of here all the time? Is it like a air jail?
Yeah, right. Well, you get the impression it's more of a drunk tank than anything, and not the kind of thing where they put there's no hardened criminals here, right? It's just like somebody's got to spend the night in this room. And in this case, Uwais was actually being you gather that he was being confined against his will, and he wasn't drunk, he was just really upset. And in the course of that, and kind of poking around, you go outside, there's like a side gate at the back there, and you can go around to the other side of where the window opens out onto the mountainside, and you see that the bars from there's the window, which is just big enough you don't know this guy, but he must have just barely been able to squeeze through this rectangular opening that's about shoulder height, head height for an average human. And the bars, there were two, and they were clearly broken outward. There's just like, divots in the adobe where they were like broken outward. And when you look around on the ground, you see with your owl eyes, I guess it's nighttime, so your owl eyes are you can totally see what's there. There's moonlight, so you have enough visibility. There's fragments of the wall are there. You don't see any sign of the bars. So they were either pulled out from the outside or forcibly pushed out from the inside.
Fascinating. Thank you.
All right.
I'm curious if there are any other prisoners in here that may have overheard, or even the guards that may have overheard some psychotic ramblings or something from the prisoner, Uais.
You gathered from the guards that he protested a lot. The guards had to actually, and they're not happy about this. The guards are actually, when they talk about this, it's clearly that it made them very unhappy that at Baki's orders, they forcibly brought Uais to this room, put him in there, slammed the bar on the outside. And once they got him in there, he was basically quiet. But on the way there, he was super upset and vocal about what had happened underground. And like saying like, don't go back down there, like warning people off. And that's the whole reason Baki wanted to like whisk him away and shut him up, because people were hearing him, say bad things. And nothing, let me think. Yeah, he was just, wasn't even, they wouldn't describe it as babbling. It was just like, black demons, we never should have gone. Azam was right. And then as soon as he got put in the holding cell, it wasn't like it wasn't like ravings where he would just keep going and going. He was just like resigned to being in there apparently. And then the next thing the guards knew, whoever was on duty just slept through the breakout.
Do we get any impression that it would have taken a feat of strength to somehow bust these bars?
From the way that they were, Alexei can tell that the bars themselves were probably like 4 feet long, but the window was only like this. So they were like built into this clay brick structure. And because there was such a narrow opening and they were, solid wood, maybe 1.5 inches thick, it was impossible to get the leverage necessary. One would imagine it'd be really hard to get the leverage to like bust through that unless you had a battering ram or some other way to kind of create extra power there, because they were so contained by the wall itself.
Sure.
Guy brother, once what the earth is claimed, the earth will not be denied.
Who do you say that to?
I say that to Bowden.
Oh.
Okay.
No mortal man
Bowden gives you a quizzical
those
look.
bars out, and it's on the outside, so you wouldn't even imagine you could get a team of whatever passes for horses in these parts to do this. Alexei thinks there was, what was in the earth was only denied for a time from its claim. We should get underground. We don't have too much time left. Let's get delving.
Well, unless, if there's absolutely right, I appreciate the urging, the goading forward is important, but I want to make sure that if there is any unresolved questions, that they can be dealt with before you do that. Yeah, so cut to the next morning. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're all together. You're rested.
Could I pray at sunrise?
Yes.
Oh, I was gonna ask Bodon, what did you end up taking with your grails?
Yeah,
Uh,
I did the driven one.
uh-huh.
I did protected and empowered because I had requested to fill me with wrath. So I wasn't sure how that would manifest later on, but
Okay. Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, sounds like you'll be doing the smiting. All right, I would like to try having a grail as well. I'm gonna pray and I'm going to my rituals involves like he has some sort he like creates like some paste out of like powders in his backpack and he makes like some war paint and it makes some paints his face with it menacingly like under the eyes and nose and brows. And he just prays to Tahamku for guidance on how he can help rid Damir's minds of the demon threat,
Oh,
which
great.
is his grail.
Love it. And so, okay, great. That's fantastic. So you guys have basically have the same grail, right? Like, let's get rid of these demons.
Yep.
Okay, roll charisma.
I got an 8.
And you can choose 2 from the list.
Yeah, I'm going to take protected, which should help a lot because my deity is light in rebirth and health.
Oh, yeah.
So literally everything down there should. And then for my, I would like to take empowered.
Okay.
And I would like to shine the light of Tahamku down in the depths of the mines.
You are imbued with some aspect of your deity's domains. Make a proposal as to the effect and work out the details with your judge. Okay.
So what?
Yeah, what does that look like?
I was gonna say, like, I don't know it, but this sounded cool to me because one of their domains is light.
Yeah.
And I was reading about how like losing your light down into depths is like it screws you over because it's so dark.
Yeah.
So what if he could be empowered, like Emek starts lighting up if we're down there and we lose our light sources or something to that effect, or
That's great. Yep.
or like he might be able to like channel his deity because this is dark and like the above world is light to help guide them towards the light, aka like be able to guide them towards the surface if we needed that.
If you need
something
it.
to that something to that effect.
Great. Those are both awesome, and keep them in mind. And when the situation calls for it, when it's appropriate, you can say, "Hey, this is what I'd like it to do." Does that make sense?
Yep, that's perfect.
So if you end out without light sources, you can do that, or you can use it to guide you out, whichever. But those sound great.
Ooh, we should pick up some lanterns and torches. Hopefully, Kalium can give us some of them.
Yeah. So the supplies that are available to you are there's picks, chisels, hammers. There's all this sort of mining stuff. There's baskets. They wear these kind of wicker backpacks that they put all the ore in to haul it out. And there are tin hats with candles on them, which the miners wear in order to work in close quarters down there over long periods of time. And they're willing to spare one lantern if somebody wants to take a lantern. Alexi, you want to be the lantern bearer? Okay. So make a note of that. And if anybody wants any special gear, or there's something that I haven't mentioned that you feel like they would have.
I would like to lug around like one of those carrying baskets and take a pickaxe, some
Nice.
torches, yeah, maybe a rope if they have one.
Yep, they definitely have rope.
And that's definitely going to have me burdened, but my thought is I can always leave this extra bag.
Yeah.
If we need to run or
Great.
get
So
in
you
a
got
fight.
you got the backpack with all that gear in there, and yeah, we don't even have to calculate it properly, but you're probably over capacity, and then you can just dump that if you need to take action. And just out of curiosity, what's Emek's strength?
I believe my strength is a 10.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
not the strongest of paladins.
nope. He's very average, and then very below average in intelligence and wisdom. He's got all the personality, but none of the tools.
Great. Okay. Any other measures you want to take before you?
Some torches.
Sure. Yeah, they've got torches. Yep.
And actually, for some reason, Alexi's breakfast ration was a little smaller than he kind of expected. There's some of those extra biscuits. They're so nice, you know, hard to get them in the big city made so fluffy in this.
Yeah, it's flatbread, but you can have it.
Okay, beautiful. And I don't know what you guys think. Does it make sense for us, maybe not Alexi, but for somebody to make a visit to Shahida, or is that a little creepy? You know, to visit her to find out if our man came back. I'm not convinced he did. I think he got grabbed, but that would be a nice thing to rule out. But maybe we want to go under. I don't know. Just
Patrick, what were you thinking? Were you?
I could make a quick jaunt over there, over to the dorms, and see if she'd be willing to talk.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you find her. Yeah. You ask around. You're pointed in the right direction, and you find her. She's actually out by the smelters. Azam is having a little ritual every time a new load is put into the smelter. Azam does a little thing, and Shahida is over there. So you encounter her there, and she kind of, you know, gives you a sideways glance and avoids your eyes.
I offer my apologies. And I'm sure she's heard that we're the group that's going into the caves, into the mines, and heard that she was friends with Oais, and we're here to set things right. And if there's anything she can share about Oais or his whereabouts or anything that might have happened to him that he had passed along to her, we'd love to know to make it make our chances for success and helping the town that much better.
That sounds like negotiate with charisma.
Oh. Right.
Is there any chance Bodon could be there with him and questioning her as well?
Sure.
I don't have any specific questions yet.
Yeah.
Right. Come on, Bodon. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. Yeah, so she's like, you know, she clearly wants to avoid talking to you, but then you have such a kindly manner, and she probably heard your song from her room last night in the night air. And Azam actually sees what's going on and kind of like, no, speak to them. It's okay. And so apart from the rest of the group, but with you and Bowden, she says, he's still alive. He's out there. I don't know what to tell you. They terrified him. I don't know when or if he'll come back. I'm afraid that he's going to leave entirely and go, I don't know, to Munhadir, the capital, or south. He told me he never wants to set foot underground again, and he's the best miner I've ever known.
Wow, that sure inspires confidence.
I try to comfort her and let her know that we have brought 3 strong, wise, and holy men to purge whatever's going on in these caves, and he will return once we have dealt with this.
Great. And Bowden, were you going to say something?
He didn't say anything though about his experience down there. Or...
She doesn't have anything more to tell you other than what you've already heard. Just, you know, vague, unclear. Well, let me think for a second. Okay, sorry. So Bowden, so Boga makes that, says, says those kind things, and then there's a moment where Bowden kind of questions her a little further, like, what actually happened? Did he ever tell you what actually happened? And she
Just
says,
pushes it a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. And she says, he said they entered a great cavern, so great that their light could barely illuminate the ceiling, and it glittered there. And it appeared as if the whole ceiling was covered in iron or silver, or it was covered in metals. And then that's when it happened. But he said he'd never been in a place that looked so rich.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll head back. We'll tell unless Bowden has anything else to
I
comment
don't.
on. Yeah.
I am curious. It wouldn't be a question for her, but I'm curious if there's like history to this place that's known, cult presence or something. But I think it might be worth moving toward the mine if
And I'm assuming
if we're gonna go down there.
or Becky, Baki told us and is gonna like show us like where like the parties went and died.
Yeah, he's
Like the
gonna
cavern
actually.
and-
Baki's not gonna set foot in the mine, but Kaleem is gonna. Yeah, Kaleem
Gotcha. Yeah.
very reluctantly is gonna take you back to this site of loss. And I will tell you, Bowden, as far as that goes, Azam, you have a little side conversation with Azam about like, how long has Damir been here? Maybe there's like, what's the history? And it's a relatively young outpost, and Azam came here as priest 5 years ago, and he does not, who knows if you can trust this person, but he's not aware of anything else that existed on this site before they dug the mine. And it wasn't him, but a preceding priest of his order is the one who kind of divined that this would be a great source of iron after they'd exhausted the surrounding hills. So Aben al-Nar is like the patron deity of this area, because in fact that was true, that his he found this place, and it was incredibly rich and has been a very successful mine up until just recently.
Can I ask, since Azam is here, as we're heading out, I tell Azam, I don't give much faith in the augurs, but did you happen to run them last night?
If you have no faith in the augurs, why should I tell you?
Maybe.
Have you heard the good word of Aben al-Nar?
I have, in fact. I have. I've heard all the good words. Come on.
This, and he sort of taps the knife at your belt, right? That very nice knife you have at your belt. This is his work. Without the eater of earth, this would be stone or flint. It would be nigh useless, especially given what you must face in the depths.
I do respect him, and I do respect your faith, and I appreciate the stories. I am interested in the augurs.
I did not cast the stones last night. Before an undertaking such as this, it is sometimes good not to have that veil passed across everything. Such possibility exists yet. I wish you the best. Come. I will bless your undertaking at the entrance. And so he kind of like hobbles along to the gathering place, and you see these kind of semi-conical kind of tent-like structures all over the village here. Each one of those are hemp kind of canopies. So you're led into the one right off the you're led to the front of this one right here. And so Azam's there, Baki's there, Kaleem's there, a couple of scattered miners further back. The four of you are brought there, and Zom does a little blessing in the name of Abenalnar. I don't know how our paladins and our cleric feel about this blessing from this other god. You do know that Abenalnar is a lawful god, so you can decide how that lines up with your faith. But Zom performs some rites there, and then Kaleem says, "Let's get this over with." And you duck through the entrance to this this canopy, and inside there is a mine shaft that goes down in the ground, and there's a pulley system that operates an elevator that goes up and down, and next to that is are two donkeys hooked up to a mechanism that they push around and work the pulley system, and the flip of a lever will reverse it, so they can raise the elevator up and down. So it's lit by there's a torch in there that's lighting up the room. Kaleem goes and goes. You can only go down 2 at a time. These are not big platforms, so all 4 of you can't actually fit onto this thing at once. So Kaleem, I think Kaleem's going to go first with Boga. Will be the first group down. And as you descend this shaft, how does Boga feel about going underground? Is Boga comfortable with that?
Boga is curious about the acoustics.
Yeah, so in the shaft, like, voomp, right? Like, it's quite narrow. You see that on the wall of the shaft, there are a series of ladders kind of attached, kind of helter-skelter. So there's, way of manual ingress and egress. And the squeaky pulleys kind of lower you down into the depths. And Kaleem is holding a torch. And then in short order, the rest of the crew's there as well. So now you're underground. And this is what the tunnels look like. There are a couple of larger gallery spaces, like at the landing itself. There's a bigger area, and then going off from it are a number of different tunnels in different directions that look like this. And Kaleem leading the way, and he is, I guess he picked up, yeah. So he's got a torch. Also, he's leading the way. He's got the torch, and he's holding it up high. He leads you one of these tunnels off of the mineshaft landing, opens into a cave that you gather is directly below the well. And this cave has openings into the well shaft, so like little windows that look into the well shaft. And there's like various supplies around here, and this is where miners take a break to drink water and refresh themselves. And when you sort of peek into that area, about 10 feet below the openings is where the water level is, right? So when you look up, you're looking at the light of the wellhead up above, and when you look down, 10 feet below you is the surface of the water. There's various ropes and buckets that people use to get water out of there. So you pass through that room, and he leads you to another shaft that goes down. And this one is just ladders, so you're just making your way down, and he has no problem at all descending with the torch in one hand, and just one hand and 2 feet free. So long story short, you go down that long shaft, through another tunnel, and then down a sloping natural cave that's no longer hand cut. It's like occasionally you'll see these little breaks or fissures that go off into the rock. There's an exhausted seam at the end of this where all of the ore has been cleared out, and then there are these little rat holes that go off in different directions where individual miners would follow a single small seam until they're in like a really, really cramped space, just getting every little last bit of ore out of it they could. And the number of Alpharin miners that you saw up above now makes sense to you, because like the little vole people would be really good at this part of the job, right? Going to these little holes. And then at the end of this tunnel, there's a tunnel very much like the one we're looking at here on the screen. And then he sort of stops and indicates, indicates below, and you see there's a break in the floor. There's a gaping hole in the floor. There's a rope tied to a chunk of rock hanging down into that space. And he kind of like pauses and looks down, and then turns and looks back at you and says, "This is the last place we saw him.
MX steps up and peers down into the hole and holds up his torch. Tries to see what's down there.
From this height, you illuminate about 20 feet of rope. That's the only visible thing is about 20 feet. There's like a slender rope that just descends into darkness. You can't see the floor from this height.
Okay.
Are we to assume the remains are still on site?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Nobody came out except Uwais.
All right. So MX gonna put out his torch and he's gonna grab one of the candle helmet things from his basket. And he's gonna put that on and he says, "I'll volunteer to go down first."
Nice.
And then he's gonna put on a brave face and descend down the rope slowly.
Okay, so still got the wicker thing on, rope in both hands, mining hat on,
Yeah.
and it's like a Yeah.
Is it completely dark at the bottom?
that's right. It's pitch black.
I grab Emic's torch. I'm not carrying a torch because I can't carry anything other than my bagpipes. I take his torch now that he's got his lamp on his head.
Yeah.
And I throw it down to
Okay.
see where the ground is.
You drop it. So lands there probably 50, 60 feet below the hole, and illuminates a kind of natural but angled kind of cave area. So the walls of this cave are angled. So the torch actually hits and then rolls down one of the walls until it hits the bottom there where there's like loose rock and stuff. So that's what Nemec's looking at as he sort of descends. And then the rope actually is long enough where it there's a little tail of it on the rock there. And Emec sets down real quick. What has Emec got on his feet? What's he wearing?
I actually mentioned this in my character description. I think I said he was wearing well-worn travel boots.
Okay, great, perfect. So we see those boots hit. There's a little puff of dust, and then Emec kind of slides down to the bottom of that slope and is standing on kind of a gravelly surface down there. Looking around, the torch is on the ground, so that orange light is illuminating this whole area. Definitely spooky. You're super, super cold down here. Going down that last shaft was like going into ice water. It's like incredibly cold down here. And Emec peering off, this space you're in now basically goes in two directions. It goes behind you and in front of you. And then there's the rope going up to the hole in the ceiling, and everything. There's like a pause and you kind of like take it all in. You don't see anything out of the ordinary right here. It just looks like a cave.
Okay, he's gonna quickly make sure the immediate area is safe. And if it looks safe, he's gonna look up towards Boga holding the torch, peering down at him, and motion for them to join him.
I'll slide down.
Do you guys think we should be being stealthy, by the way?
What was that? It was a question. Was it a question?
Yeah, I'm asking out of character.
Yeah,
Do you guys think we should be trying to be
I
stealthy?
think this is like the least stealthy group I've ever been with.
This is true.
Alexi's outfit and the armor and yeah, I've got bagpipes.
Fair enough.
Notable quiet musical instrument.
Strike
That's right.
terror into the heart.
Yeah, just full frontal
I know I'm gonna
assault then.
fall on it at some point. And it's just gonna let out this.
Don't give me any ideas. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's down there.
Yeah, before we go down,
Yeah, I go down.
is there an abundance of rope up here? If not, I may mention to our guide that we're going to be busy down there, but gosh, it would be lovely if and maybe enhance our chances of success if they could tie an equal length of rope onto that rock or possibly another rock and drop it down. So we might have two paths up in case we had to move in a hurry.
Yeah. Clean can do that. No problem.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Great idea. Yep. So there's a that coiled. In fact, that's probably how Alexi goes down.
This way, two of us can escape.
Second row. Okay, you're all down there at the bottom, and it sounds like Emec's got the hat with the candle on it.
Technically, Bodon's got wings, so 3 of
Yeah.
us can escape.
It's kind of
How's
hard
that?
to get some. There's like not a lot of room down here. I don't know how Bowden feels about that, but like there's definitely like to get enough. You would in the space you're in right now. You'd need more room to actually get up in terms of flying using your wings. That is.
Yeah, I've got the candle hat, by the way.
Colleagues, if we can find the remains of the departed miners, assuming there are some, that might tell us a great deal about what we seek. And if time and space can be created, I may be able to find out even more.
Emek nods.
Do we know which direction that we're supposed to go as far as?
Kaleem tells you, like Kaleem had gestured. Yeah, when you get down there, we'll just call forward towards the. He knows that both parties went in that direction, and then backwards, nobody went in that direction, but it does. The cave does go that way.
Okay.
So forwards, is that right? Any other light sources besides the candle helmet?
Lantern?
I can light a torch.
And a lantern. Okay, so lots of light.
Yeah, Alexi has a lantern and has one of those wicker backpacks with like half a dozen torches.
Okay. And
Alexi definitely brought some food in that, like the bottom of the basket.
Oh yeah, those biscuits, man, so good, and probably will keep for a little while.
And what's the marching order? Who's in front? Is it still Emek?
Yeah.
I can take
I
the
mean,
back.
unless anyone else wants to, but it seems like an Emek thing to do.
That sounds good. And then Bowden in the back, and then Boga and Alexi in the middle there.
Yeah, so we have light sources in all 3 levels.
And can we leave a torch? I guess I'm carrying 6, so perhaps I could mark that down to 5 and leave a torch kind of lit and wedged into the rocks by the ropes.
Sounds nice. Sounds like Alexi takes a moment to do that. Great. Yep.
Jason,
Ooh,
for the torches, do I just mark a use if I'm saying I'm lighting a torch, or?
If you're lighting a torch, yes, you're using it, and then that torch has duration, whatever it says in the thing there. Each individual
3.
torch has duration 3, right? No, yes. Yeah, so you mark a use to light it, and then you have basically 3 circles that you mark off as it's used up.
Gotcha.
All right, and I take it forward towards the last known location. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Emek, you're in the lead, and probably get about. So this slanted cave, which you kind of have to. It's kind of awkward because there's not quite enough directly above the ground that the ceiling kind of comes in like this. So there's a little bit of like walking sideways and holding your torch over where there's more room, or occasionally leaning over and catching yourself on the rock to the right. But then it does kind of a little more space opens up, and on the right there is a tunnel kind of descends into water.
Can I keep an eye out for any tracks or things that seem out of place while we're moving?
Okay. Find answers.
I'm also keeping a good eye on behind us.
Great. So that sounds like I'm going to say Emek is finding answers, and with Bowden's help, right? You guys are basically scrutinizing the area. So to find answers, it's either wisdom, intelligence. Well, it's not charisma. You can't ask around down here.
Dang. Those
Wisdom
are
and,
both worse stats.
well, we can have. Well, Boga is probably like right behind you, or
Yeah.
Alexi's probably right behind you.
Yeah, does someone else want to be searching for the tracks? MX had gone full crusader. He's doing little war chants and.
Well, you know what?
for
Actually, if
demons
everybody's down here looking, you all can add to one person's roll. So it's like the whole crew is looking through the tunnel. So, I mean, right there, that's +3.
And what do we roll?
I can roll on wisdom.
Sure. Like, yeah, sure. Why don't we have Alexi roll if he's got the highest? What's your wisdom?
It's 15.
Ooh.
But it's +1.
Great. So with everybody else looking, then that's a total +4, which is the max. So go ahead and roll 2d6.
+4. Here we go. Oh, good. 7 + 4 is 11.
Nice.
Okay. Has anybody had any experience being underground before? Alexi, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of his thing. He's given up the sky, and to remind, sorry, I'd have to figure out what his name was. Zemdrak is Earth aspected, the Earth Dragon.
Right. Okay,
You
great.
know, and he is actually more comfortable in here than he was actually up on the surface.
No way. Wow. Okay, so you've been underground before, like
Yeah.
spelunking. Okay, great. Okay, so Alexei, you notice pretty quickly that there are areas of the rock where, in your experience and your observations, you know what an ore seam, what an ore vein looks like, right? You know how it runs across the surface of a rock. You know that how over who knows what kind of godly time rock down here fractures and falls apart and stays in one place for thousands of years. You know what like it looks like when one material runs through stone and rock. It's very clear to you that this place was striated with who knows what other ore, but it has been removed. So there are like basically from for anybody walking through here, it just looks like horizontal and sort of cracks in the walls, right? Like somebody would just assume there are just these gaps in the rock, but you can tell that like all these gaps and cracks used to have material in them that has been removed. And the thing that is surprising about that is that there are no signs of chisel marks or pick marks or anything like that. So it's as if the, or like if you could imagine something that if ice had filled these cracks and had melted, leaving these voids behind, right? But you know very definitely that it was whatever kinds of ore would normally be in these rocks was there and is now missing.
Wow, colleagues, I will share this with my companions and the, you know, as knowledge of that the earth has bequeathed to us.
So you pause and you sort of, there's a pause where you kind of point that out.
Yes.
And you're right near this tunnel that kind of descends off to the right, and it
into the water.
Like a foot below your current ground level. There's this kind of rust colored pool of water there. And there's condensation on the ceiling of that tunnel as it descends into the water. There's it's wet and shiny with condensation, the rock there.
Well, first of all, like MX not very bright, but even when Alexei brings this up, even his ears quiver a little bit. And he says, "Weren't the miners only down here for a day? This can't have been their doing."
Agreed wholeheartedly, colleague. This predates, I would imagine.
And now, me, the player, knowing these old school D&D tropes, would like to poke around the water with the long stick. See if I can find some treasure or dead people.
Do you have a long stick?
That's a good question. I have adventuring gear.
You can totally produce. We can say that
Could
that
I
was
procure a long pole?
Sure. We can say that all along it's been strapped to your back. You've got your 10-foot pole.
All right, I will mark you one use of my adventuring gear.
Great. And
now I've got a pole. 10-foot
okay,
pole.
so you poke it in the water there. You got your candle hat on. So you take a step forward and you prod it, and so it's kind of murky water. There's like it's like a kind of almost like a muddy kind of. Well, actually, let me think for a second. Actually, I think there's like a rusty kind of aspect to it, but it's not totally opaque, right? So there's like aspect you can see through. There's clear rocks down there, but there's kind of like a cloudy rustiness to it, right? So you can actually see your pole go in, and you're like poking a rock here, poking a rock there, and you poke into the cloud, the rusty cloud, and you hit something that's not. It has a slightly different resistance than the rock of the ground, and there's a kind of a billow of this rusty cloud underneath the water, right? So there's something that's not quite as rock solid as the rock. It's still hard, but it had a different kind of resistance to it, but it's obscured by the cloudiness of the water.
And is the water blocking our path forward, or can
No,
we
no,
get
this is
there?
like a side tunnel. You can still continue forward. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna point out this weird, muddy, different resistance cloud to my crewmates. Oh, you see that? Look at this. Prod, prod, prod.
Yeah, we should get it. We should get it. Against his better judgment, Alexi's gonna taste. Is this iron or is this not iron?
No.
He's gonna dip his talon in the water and then
Yep.
taste it.
A little owl tongue action. Yeah.
I mean, you know, the underground.
Yeah.
It tastes like rust. It tastes
Rust.
like rusted iron. Yeah.
It's rusted iron, my friends. Don't be afraid, whoever's going in there to grab it.
Whoever.
Emmett looks around and
grab it
Emmett
or-
goes like, and he like kind of pulls up like his chainmail and shrugs apologetically.
Bowden, you were gonna get it. Is that right?
Can't be me.
I can, yeah. I'm wearing
Once the
chainmail. but-
feathers get wet, you know, it's just.
So you're wearing chainmail.
Yeah, I don't know how deep we're talking, but I can
I have a
doff
pole,
and
so
doff and
I
down
can.
the-
How far down the 10-foot pole is the water?
I think Bowden
prodding
can
this thing.
Bowden can wade into knee deep and then reach down and grab this thing that you've been hitting with the pole.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so you reach down. So you you got your chainmail on. So this owl person
Booty roll. Booty
steps
roll.
into the water, and you reach down into the water and kind of feel around. And the pole's right there too, so it's pointing at the thing, and it's a mass. It's like it's like sitting on the ground, and when you feel it out with your fingers, it's like a rounded kind of mass that you give it a little tug, and it seems like it's quite heavy and large. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe a shield, but if a round shield was really thick, right? And it's very slightly spongy, and when you pull on it, you realize that there's enough. It's submerged in the water, and the water makes it that much easier to manage. And what's Bowden's strength?
He's got decent strength. It's a 13.
Yeah. Okay. So Bowden, just by grabbing it and giving a little bit of tug and kind of estimating, it does give a little bit when you pull on it. You feel like with some effort and help, you could haul this thing out of the water.
Okay.
Boga's definitely going to help him out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Boga rolls up his sleeves and
Yeah.
goes in there. All right.
With the knees, gentlemen, with the knees, not the back. I learned that the hard way.
So you plunge your hands in there as well, and you get a
Yeah.
hold of it, and then you guys heave, and you take a couple steps back, and you pull the end of it up out of the water, and it is like how would you describe it? It's like a giant blackened pancake, like a puffy pancake. It's heavy. You can't even tell what material is. There's definitely, but it's also covered with rust. So it's there's rusted, it's got a combination of kind of a black color and a rusty color, and it's very uneven surface. And you manage to haul the whole thing out, halfway out of the water. Then you have to drop it, and it goes kaboosh. So now it's sitting halfway in the water. It's probably 4 feet in diameter, and at its thickest, it's probably about a foot thick. And so it's like a raggedy, thick pancake made out of who knows what, like some kind of, poking and prodding it. It looks like there's chunks of ore in it, maybe, but the ore's all rusty.
I doubt Emek would think this, but me, the player, thinks this is a cover or a stop of something. Maybe not. That kind of sounds like a really thick manhole cover.
We could see if suddenly the water was whooshing, sloshing, or otherwise, and that pole could tell.
Yeah, there's no immediate sign that the water pressure has changed.
Can we? How high up is the ceiling from where we are?
From where you are now, it's it varies, but it's roughly 12 feet high.
Okay, and there's no punctures from above. It's solid.
So you're examining, Boga's examining the ceiling at this point?
Yeah. Just wondering if I mean, having heard the stories of the shards that fell from the sky, back in the old days.
Yeah.
Wondering
right.
if some shards had fallen through,
Could have punctured this deep.
could have punctured.
You don't see any holes, but this condensation that you've noticed on the ceiling of this side tunnel, you see that when you're holding up the light and looking up above, as everybody else is kind of examining the object, you see that the condensation continues. This whole surface here is quite wet, and there's actually, now that you're illuminating with your torchlight, it's picking up the gleam of a trickle of water that's coming down kind of off to one side. And there's no dripping, right? It's just like one of those trickles that sticks to the rock. So it's coming down and it appears to be feeding this pool, but it's literally just one or two tiny little tendril trickles kind of clinging to the rock that were so, it's like they're so almost static that you didn't even notice them at first, right? It's that kind of constant but tiny flow of water. So flowing from some part of the ceiling up above.
Make sure that 10-foot pole doesn't hit the ceiling.
I think we've ruled out the miners, colleagues. Should we press forward and see if we can locate them?
Let's press forward.
Yep.
Okay, another 20 yards, there's a bend in the cave, and Emek, the light catches something on the ground.
Oh.
It is a boot.
Hey, hold up. And he holds up a hand to pause the procession. I sense we're getting closer. Can I pick it up and see if there's blood or signs of a struggle?
There's no sign of blood, but the boot's not all there. Like it's partly almost like it's been burned, partly burned, but what you would expect if it was burned, that the blackened edge would be bigger. There's like a fine black edge to it, and when you're looking around in this area of the cave, you see other little scraps and bits of things that you can only assume belong to the miners. Like there's a belt, part of a belt. There is and I think it's Alexi who notices actually a bone, which upon closer examination appears to be like a femur, some kind of big leg bone, and but it's as if a big leg bone, well, it's like pitted and kind of eaten away at.
As we walk through it, I'm going to look for anything that might be like personal artifacts or anything that might be identifiable. Just playing into my responsibility. I feel responsible for bringing back anything that is like a sign that they had passed away, to bring closure to any of the families that might be back in the village. Any personal artifacts.
Yeah. You do find a clay figurine, a ceramic figurine with like a little loop on the top where it must have been attached to like a thong or a necklace of some kind, and it's a little super simple figurine of Aben Alnar with his mouth open.
Colleagues, if you could provide me protection for a few moments, I may attempt something to gain some information about what has transpired here. I worry that if it is not successful, or if it is successful, it might stir up some things, but I would like to attempt to contact the spirit of one of these miners.
Whoa.
Since we have a femur.
Whoa.
If people are cool with that.
I'm cool with it.
Is it, Alexi, is this something that will be loud?
In terms of volume, maybe a little little, but if we are facing something spiritually attuned, it will probably be louder in the realms beyond than it will be to your ears.
Can I offer something else as well to add to that? I feel one of the reasons I've come along on this is to help bring closure to, or find out what happened to these miners. And I'd like to play a soft melody.
Maybe you could echo the tune, because actually
Yes.
Zemdrak's two domains are earth and music.
So let's combine.
Can you harmonize?
We can.
Softly?
We can. Softly.
Softly. So
Emek and Bodon can stand guard on two sides.
Wow, great. So is this Kevin? Are you invoking?
I'm invoking, Jason.
And
I'm evoking with a hubris of 3, marvelous, because I'm hoping to speak to dead, speak with dead.
and Patrick, are you helping? Is that
I'm
your
helping
goal?
with the backup. Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah, great. Okay. Then Kevin, you're going to get an extra +1 for that. And it falls within your domain. I'm sorry. Say again how it falls within your guys' domain.
Oh, earth.
Earth, right? Of course.
And we are underground, which is for Zemdrak is holy. We're also using music to aid in the invocation.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're using music. Yeah. My God, it's all lining up.
And I've got my holy symbol with me.
Okay, so this is marvelous because you're trying to speak with the dead. That's the
Yep.
level of invocation here. So then you're going to be at -3 for that. And
Yep.
then what were your total pluses? Did you get it all the way up to 4?
Let's see, underground.
Wait, you don't get a plus for underground, right? Because you consider this a sacred space. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I'll buy it.
I mean, if that's a stretch, we don't need it. We could always use the pluses. So +1 for holy symbol, +1 for the music, +1 for bogus help. So that's and then if we allow earth and being underground would be a sacred space to Zemdrak, the dragon of below, which I would argue probably.
I don't think the whole of Earth is sacred to
You think-
Zemdrak.
The whole
It's like
earth is
like a hallowed space, or like there's
Okay,
a shrine
I'm
to
with you. All
Zemdrak
right.
or something.
So
like
then
that.
it's +3 -3. It's an even roll.
Wait, now hold on, back up a second. You said +1 for music. What do you mean by that?
Well, the invocation actually involves the singing of the one is calling to entice the dead, to sing to the dead, to sing with Zemdrak. And the actual procedure involves a small clay dish in which the dirt and maybe a little bit of the femur goes in there along with a little saliva, to bring the water together. And then that together forms the call, the start of the call.
Okay. You get +1 for bogus help. You get +1 for your holy symbol. And what's your charisma or wisdom?
It doesn't matter in the sense that both pluses are the same. It's +1 on both.
Okay, great. So then, yeah, you're at 0.
So we're at 0.
Straight up.
All right. Survey says, let's see here. All right. And Jason, I don't think, do I burn favor for this? I don't think I do.
No.
All right. Let's see what Zemdrak has to say to us, if he can become a conduit.
Oh, sorry. When any roll falls within the domain of your deity, you may spend favor before you roll to increase the result by +1 for each point of favor spent. So you may optionally spend favor to get extra bonuses on this roll.
Yeah, I'm burning. I've got 2 favor. I'm burning both of them.
Okay, then you got +2 to this roll.
+2. Here we go. Survey says, oh, thank God. Thank Zemdrak. So it's a 9. It's a natural 7.
Okay.
+2 is a 9.
Okay. Your request is granted with duration 3. So wow, not only have you tuned in, but they're gonna stay with you. I mean, if you want, you rolled well, so you could actually dismiss them at any point. Yeah, so what that looks like is, in fact, they you perform the ritual. Boga's there. Boga is playing quietly. The 2 others are guarding, and there's like all this echoes and dripping sounds in the cave, and that just all of a sudden goes away, and then all you can hear very, very faintly is the neon bomb, the like whatever the quiet version of that sounds like. And Boga, what you see is Alexei all of a sudden is sort of transfixed and clearly looking at something that's not there. So that's and from your perspective, Alexei is in a totally different zone. And Alexei, the minor, it's a woman, and she's an apparition appears before you. I'm going to say that she looks whole, and it's not like you can see through her or anything. It's like she's standing there in the cave with you, and she's just kind of like standing there, looking you in the face.
Wow, many greetings to our sister in the earth. We are here to uncover and repair what has been done. Can you tell us what happened to you and your colleagues, and perhaps how we may assist?
We were taken by the devils. We were consumed by them. Little remains. And when she says that, she does start to kind of fade. You must reclaim us from them.
Is there anyone in the lands still in the lands of the living who you wish to pass a message to that we may convey on your behalf?
She says the names of her family up top.
Gotcha. We don't have to actually go through the message, but just assuming any of us make it out of the pit, we can do that. Can you guide us to where we need to be to reclaim you?
And then she just kind of like points further down the tunnel.
Okay. I will share this with my colleagues who may or may not have heard my end of it. Did they hear or see her?
I think the paladins had some sense. The paladin, when they look over their shoulder at you, they're like, "Oh, it's like they get what's going on." Like both paladins have a sense that you're speaking to there's some spiritual force present. They don't actually see her, but they're very they get it. Like they totally understand what's happening.
Can I ask her? Have I run out of questions?
No.
Oh, beautiful.
She's basically your sidekick at this point.
Oh, wonderful. Can I ask her two things I really want to know, and then open if anybody wants me to be a conduit for their questions. One question is, did you do anything, or do you think there was something that happened that provoked or caused them to come after you? And two, anything you can tell us about them, what they looked like, how they struck?
So when you asked the first question, well, you asked both of those questions, and then she doesn't speak. She walks over to Bowden, and Bowden, you're looking now, and actually, as she does that, there's a faint shimmer. You actually see her for a moment as she walks over to you, and actually, when she gets close to you, she appears to materialize more. So then you see this woman. She's dressed in her regular everyday clothes. She's not like mauled or anything like that. She looks like she would have looked if you encountered her in Damir. She walks over and she puts her hand on Bowden's chest. Or she doesn't actually touch her chest. She puts her hand in front of your chest and then looks back at Alexei to answer your first question. And you realize that the thing that you put two and two together, and you realize that she's pointing at the armor that Bowden is wearing. And then your second question is, what do they look like?
Yeah. Or anything she can tell us about what they looked like or their.
So she leads you back down the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either go by yourself or the whole crowd can go with you, but she leads you back to the place where the water is.
Yeah.
And she points at the thing you hauled out of the water.
Does that make sense to anybody else?
So what was the question she was answering by pointing
What did
at
they
the
look like? What did the devils look like?
devils look like thick wheels?
Are they made of iron or something? Maybe.
I wish
Played this level on Dark Souls.
Okay.
Those guys were
All right, my verbal description may not be sufficient enough to describe this object that you withdrew from the water, but I have here, there's the water actually, I should have showed you that before. This is what it looks like, but thicker
Oh,
on the edge. So it's like a mass, a semi-solid mass. And I guess it's probably Alexia Boga who, in this moment, realizes that this thing, which just looked like a weird, strange object, is actually one of the creatures.
holy.
Got it.
Okay.
To hear her tell it.
We're going to convey that essence as quickly as and succinctly as possible to the people holding weapons. So armor sets him off, and holy crap, they look like this. And is that disc isn't moving though, right?
The one you're looking at now is not. Nope. She is just like, it looks like and the reason you didn't even suspect it before is just because it looks like a weird stony mass.
Lexi, can you ask how did they do this to it?
Jason, I'm just going to let people ask, and I'll just be the faithful conduit. I'm not planning to spin it or anything else. So ask away, my friend.
Okay. Did they do this? Were they able to defeat one of the demons?
Did the miners do it? Is that your question?
Yes. Yeah. Dirk did it the moment.
Did they do it? She shakes her head.
how do we defeat these things?
Emmett gets right to the point. She points at the water.
They rust. That's got to be it. All right. Hopefully we brought lots of water.
So are we thinking we have to doff our armor?
Good question, Bowden.
I also have a mace, which I assume is iron, as my only implement of.
You could totally establish that it wasn't. I mean, we would assume that, but you absolutely could roll to establish that, in fact, you had a bronze mace or, or a mace of some other matter.
How long were they down here before the devils attacked?
How long were they down here before the devils attacked? Like it happened right away.
Okay.
Roughly speaking, right? Like she communicates to you that they moved. They came down, they started exploring, and they were attacked. So
Gotcha.
They weren't down here very long at all.
TikTok.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's time to return to Munadir. It is Brian, it's 1:45.
All right. Other questions, my friends? Stuff to take back to the surface with us.
Well, next time we come down here, gotta have a way to. We need water, basically. That seems to be the way to take them down.
I've got a request. I don't know how gutsy people feel in the last 5 minutes of the session. This thing's roughly circular. We could roll it down. We could loft it back up and poke and prod it on the surface. I don't know how we're getting up the two ropes, but
oh, you want to take it out with you?
Yeah, I mean, if it's inanimate, if it's an ex-parrot, as it were, we could roll it with our big strong arms and just try to, since both time is of the essence, and we now know that we have no free time left. Like there's not like, you got about 6 hours before the things come for you. We could try rolling this down and see if we could get it up, and then bail if we have to very quickly.
Maybe we could break off a piece. Is that or something?
I'm not strong enough for it, but yeah, if somebody wants to try.
Do some forensic analysis on it.
Spiritual stuff, get people to look at it,
Boga, Patrick, as leader, do you want to take out the whole thing?
If we can take a chunk of it, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
And I love the idea of regrouping in town and figuring out what we're going to do next.
Whoever's
Whoever's strongest.
Yeah, who thinks they can break off a piece of it?
Probably Bodon.
I got a mace I can smack at it for a while. And,
Okay, great. Let's do so with time. You definitely could like pound off a chunk of this, right? So the thing that's at stake here is that with too much time, you might draw the attention of something. So this roll is to see how effective you are, how efficient you are at pounding off a chunk of this thing.
nobody has like a chisel and hammer or spikes or something like that, right?
Did anybody bring a chisel and hammer?
I did bring the basket of mining supplies.
You did.
Okay.
The pickaxe.
Great.
You got the
Yeah.
pickaxe, right?
I do
So
have a
Imek
pickaxe.
can hand over the pickaxe to you.
Sure.
That's definitely the right tool for the job.
And while my colleagues are doing this, I'm going to have at least an actual hand on the wall of the corridor. So if I get any vibrations, you know, the one as one hears the rail lines before the train, just in case if there is like, might give us a little warning.
Yep.
Might be worth having Emic at the closest to the way toward in the direction that we need
The
to go
exit?
for the demons. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
the other side.
The other side, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
As a bulwark.
Yeah, just in case.
Great.
Just in case.
So this is going to be a saving throw with strength.
Okay.
You got
One,
this,
2d6.
Bowden.
I rolled an 11, and
Yeah.
I've got a +1 for my strength, and I don't know if the pickaxe adds anything.
Pickaxe does not add anything. What was that other? I was just remembering what you're protected, empowered, and driven, right?
Yeah,
None
yeah.
of which
So
none of which need to apply here, because, or I guess there's the
Sure.
wrath.
yeah, I mean it's a 12 with the strength. Am I
Yeah,
trying to
no,
get-
there's no problem. You definitely got it, no problem.
Okay.
I was just all of a sudden I was like, wait, how does the Grail thing come into play? Okay, great. So there's just like
Whatever.
there's a moment you assess, and then chunk, and it's just one clean strike, and you hit it like you kind of gauged where like two kind of chunks of pieces of it kind of came together, like two kind of stony pieces. Wham! Right there, and then you reach down and you're able to kind of. And when you pull this chunk off, you know, like rusty flakes of it fall away. But as you pull it off from the mass, you've now cut into the thing, and you see that inside of it, it's like the texture of a. Well, it's like it parts like if you cut into like a chunk of salmon, right? It parts like that, except that the chunks are stony. It's like
Sure.
stone, but it flakes away like salmon does, and there's like some goo that kind of connects the pieces, and then you haul that free, and now you're holding this rusted chunk.
With goo.
And then with that, you can easily abscond because you don't have to haul the whole creature out.
Good recon. Let's go.
Great, and then exiting is not a problem. You get back up to Damir easily.
With gratitude to our spirit, I will dismiss her, and with thanks and assurances that we will try our best to make this right, and also that her family will get her messages.
Oh, great, perfect. So she disappeared. Like, I think what happens is you're kind of climbing up, and whoever's last going up, it's probably Bowden actually, like before taking up the rear. And Bowden, because she had come forward and touched you, since that moment, you've been able to see her this whole time. And so when you're climbing up that rope, you're the last one, you're looking down, and as the light kind of fades, you see her just kind of like looking up at you, and the light kind of fades away until she kind of sinks into blackness. And then you guys return to the surface, and much to everyone's surprise, you're alive. And as there's not exactly cheering, but there's definitely like you come out of the tent, and everybody's there, shocked. Azam like sings the praises of Abanalnar. The miners gathered around. There's like there's like there's like gasps of astonishment. and somebody takes up the strains of that song that Boga sang the night before, the song of hope, right? Like whatever that chorus of coming through the other side is, somebody, you just hear that out there in the crowd. Somebody starts singing that. And then we're gonna wrap up, unless anybody has any final things they want to do now that they're back in Damir.
And we can stay in Damir. We don't have to go all the way back to.
Yeah, I mean, and one is,
yeah.
One is the same as the other because
Yeah,
they're so close by, so
yeah.
it'd be easy enough to like move back and forth. But absolutely,
Okay.
you can stay here until the next outing.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, sorry to cut it off like that. It's the interesting challenge of these episodic missions.
No,
This feels like a two-shot. This feels like a two-shot.
Right, and I think and the same was true of the first mission that we ran.
Yeah.
It's interesting to kind of try to get enough into that, and they're going back to that one as well. Like these guys are returning to that. So I need to like scale down my mission design. Something needs to happen.
Yeah, me and Bodan definitely have unfinished business here because our grails are related to this mission.
You're all charged up. You gotta, all right, we're gonna wrap up. Mark 1 XP if you met your class requirement. Now, because there wasn't a lot of action, don't worry about it's very possible that you might not have done that. So for paladins, that would be make progress towards your grill. You definitely made progress, actually. So paladins mark XP for that. For Bard, deliver a memorable performance. Absolutely. That was a lovely description of the song that Boga sang to the beset miners. And act according to your cause for our cleric. What is your actual cause? It was to heal the...
Yeah, the Western lands and their people must be healed rather than exploited.
Yeah, great. So trying to repair this loss of life by bringing back news to the family.
Yeah, closure, guidance. Yeah. I feel actually fairly good about that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And obviously, I mean, I'm sure that the black demons talk about the demons from above or whatever in their own telling of it. But I feel like we're trying to bring healing rather than death. So I feel okay about that.
All right. Traits, going down the list, starting with top of my order here on Zoom is Kevin. What traits did Alexi act on?
Kind and greedy. I've decided he's a bit of a foodie, and so I feel like I exemplified that a few times.
That's perfect. And he's neutral, is that right?
He is neutral.
Okay, cool. So you get XP for acting on at least one trait in a noticeable way, and then your alignment is neutral, meaning maintain a balance or advance a personal interest.
Yeah, I'm not sure I did either one of those, to be honest with you.
And anybody else could, of course, chime in with suggestions if you've noticed what other people did. Moving down for me, that's Bowden's next. What are Bowden's traits?
Frugal, wrathful, doubtful. Wrathful, I mean, going after the demons and invoking wrath with my deity. That
hey, you actually spilled ichor in this one. That's more than any of the more than any of us did. Like, you got to see it bleed a little bit.
I guess.
The thing that I mean, I didn't see so much wrath, but I think that wasn't a lot of opportunity, right? But I really love the way you described when we first met Bowden. I think the frugal part came through in the hand painted helmet, right? Like the way you described his appearance and the way he the like painting the chain on the shield yourself and all that. I felt like that was a great indicator of that.
Okay.
So
I think doubtful also might he's doubtful of the other religions or the other religious folk, but
they're great. I love it. In any case, XP for traits for sure. And then what's your alignment?
Alignment is chaos. I don't know. It says cause trouble or disrupt a prevailing order. I'm trying to think. Disrupting what's going on, what the demons have, perhaps, or investigating Uais, because the village seems to want to keep that kind of hush hush. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't see too much of it myself. But...
Yeah, and I'm thinking there's a lot of potential there, but it's like this wasn't, an investigation episode is not a great opportunity for Bowden to really disrupt things, right? I mean, Abidana is a perfect avatar for breaking things and getting free, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity here for that.
Yeah, I think it'll certainly come in once we're able to either free these people or their spirits or whatever.
Yeah,
eventually.
Great, Patrick.
Yes.
Traits.
My traits are responsible and malicious.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have yet to really be malicious. I've had a few ideas, but haven't had an opportunity. But on responsible, I feel like I'm trying to take care of the community and make sure that they're taken care of.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And what's your alignment?
My alignment is neutral. I don't really felt like I just to that point about not really feeling like finding an opportunity to be malicious.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've been balanced.
Okay. And also keep in mind that at the end of every session, when you wrap up, I'm not going to go through it now, but if you want to look at the rules yourself, you can actually shift your traits around. So if you feel like, well, Boga's not malicious, just doesn't fit, then you can choose a different vice and replace it as long as it's one that matches what your vision for him is. And that's, you can actually eventually, if you want to, you can actually change alignment that way also. So from session to session, you do have some flexibility there. So when you get a chance, you might want to take a look at that procedure and see if you want to mix it up. Okay, and Emic.
Yeah, so his traits are cooperative, forgiving, and merciful. The only thing I can think of is when what's his name? When shoot.
Oh yeah. When Kaleem was a jerk.
Yeah, when Kaleem told him to push over the chair, you pushed the chair over.
And you were like, okay, like that was great. That was so great. That was such a nice moment. Yeah, for sure. And you're good. And the thing about good is that you have to help another at your own expense. Did you do that?
I don't think so.
It's kind of a hard one to hit because you have to actually kind of,
you were first in the hole.
Take a hit.
Like with
no
doubt,
true.
No hesitation. In the depths where everybody got like 10 people got 9 people got murdered.
Right, but what was the cost? He didn't lose. It's at his own expense, right? He didn't actually.
I mean, he put himself at risk, but it didn't pay off, right? There was definitely a little self-sacrifice there, but not. You're right, no consequence.
I'm gonna let Emic make that decision. Okay, great. And then last set of questions here. Did you make an exciting discovery as a group?
Totally.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
That rusty thing.
Everybody gets an XP. Did you overcome a difficult obstacle? I'm going to say, speaking to the dead, I think the obstacle of what is the barrier to answers being had, you overcame that. And that was a really nice moment where Boga was playing back up and the 2 paladins were guarding. That's fantastic. So everybody gets XP for that. And then did you acquire some memorable booty?
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
That the chunk of this thing totally counts as memorable booty. So everybody gets XP for that. All right. Woo. And boy, we're like 1 minute from.
Can I just say how much I love that monster design? Like when we went down there, I was sure it was gonna be like a classic D&D monster, and then it's just like a metal disc lump thing. Oh, that's awesome.
Good. I'm glad that you liked it. Maybe you'll find out more about this metal lump thing. So you guys can try to set up a next session, and because of the way this is structured, depending on the timing, you could also go on missions in between because they're supposed to be successive. And I can also look at my calendar and throw out possible extra dates not on the schedule for a follow-up mission if people are up for it. And if you're not, that's also totally fine.
Right. I'd love to keep the band together, man. You guys are awesome.
Totally.
This was
Yeah,
this
definitely.
light, and I feel like
I
we've
enjoyed
got
this guy.
a good team for this particular egg that we're trying to crack.
Oh my God, it's kind of crazy how much like the Boga Alexi combo and then 2 paladins on top of that. It's kind of an awesome.
It's
And-
perfect for fighting these demon things or speaking with the dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
time out of your
Thank you,
Yeah, this
Jason.
is awesome.
days
Yeah.
or evenings or
Great.
whatever.
And Jason, these illustrations, man, having all these beautiful visual aids, it's like
Incredible.
really feels like an old school D&D thing where you turn the page and there's the Errol Otis kind of, you know, with admittedly yours has fewer tentacles and less dramatic eyes. But not necessarily
We'll see
a problem.
about that, I guess.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
see how many
point.
tentacles it has.
Yeah, it put up with
Yeah.
it. And for chit chat, do we just put more stuff in mission 2? Does that feel like a good way for us to kind of intra session speculate?
Do you mean? Oh, you mean for
In
amongst
Discord.
yourselves?
Yeah, in terms of like where do we want to go next? What are we thinking? That
Yeah,
kind
that's probably a good place for it. And then if you do actually want to go back to Moon Hadir and other people might be privy to your conversations, then you know, you may. I mean, you know, depending on how it goes, that may be what happens. So yeah, anything you want to just talk about as a group about, then that would be the place to do it. Mission 2.
All right.
All right. Thanks, you
All right.
guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Have a
Nice meeting
time.
everybody.
All right.
Good night. Nice to meet you all.
Yep.